The Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
All right, let's bring in Keith Stewart. He's currently on the grounds in the media center at Philadelphia Cricket Club. What are the cricket club locations like there? Like some nice courts? Do they call them courts? Do they call them fields? What do they call them?
Well, Pat, when you are the original, and good afternoon, right? But when you are the original country club, private country club in the United States, you actually have 3 locations. So where I'm at in Flowertown, PA, has 2 golf courses. Militia Hill, which was opened in 2002, and of course the famous Wissahickon course by A.W. Tillinghast in 1922. Now, over in Chestnut Hill, PA, then there's another probably croquet, wear your whites only setting, and then there's also the St. Martin's golf course. So there's 3 different locations for this USA Original.
Now, what was it, a wear your whites only, or was it a whites only club? You cut out on me there.
Ooh. Wear your
both.
whites only. Yeah, no, I should definitely have categorized that. Very good catch. When you play rackets, squash, court, if you'd ever heard of court tennis, we're going way back now. Well, 1854 is way back, but yes, there's a different location. This is just golf, 36 holes, great practice facility. And if like you and I were here, normal human beings were playing, you would absolutely, I know we were texting about this, but you would absolutely love the Wissahickon course. It is just so much fun to play.
Everyone who's played it or has been there has said exactly the same thing about it. And it's one of the few courses that when you look at it, just even watching the videos of it and watching the hole by hole flyovers, it just looks unique in a way that I think the sort of creativity and different style of courses, it's something we get a lot on the DP World Tour, I find, like once we get to this part of the year in Europe, versus on the PGA Tour, we just start seeing all of the same sorts of courses every single week that I don't know if it's a good course or bad course, but it's so much different than what I'm used to seeing that I like it.
I tell you what, I mean, Philadelphia, it's very tough for me to admit this because I'm a New Jersey, New York guy. I kind of lean that way. But Philadelphia is probably has the best collection of golden age architecturally designed golf courses in America. I mean, it is hands down like one of the best places for golf. And the PGA Tour hasn't been here in 8 years. I mean, the last time they were here was Keegan, then the rain out, the BMW in the fall, playoff win over Justin Rose. So, I mean, we should come here more often. But the problem is that, I mean, I guess you keep going to TPCs because there's nothing around them. And there's such a level of infrastructure now that's needed for these events and get the fans and the parking and everything. I mean, this week's been a logistical nightmare for a lot of people. And, you know, Philly's going to show up because no one's been here for 8 years. But man, oh man, like it's tough to get in and out of this place. Although once you get here, boy, it's Shangri-La. It's really nice.
It's funny when I used to go down and play Hazeltine with Moose a little bit, and I had to ask him. I was like, I mean, obviously the course is really, really nice. It's like, why do they always have a Ryder Cup here, or a PGA Championship, or the LPGA PGA Championship, whatever it might be? Why does this course continuously get so many big events? And everyone just very instantly answered me, because you can fit 200,000 people here. It's just a giant field, and you can put up stands wherever you want.
Yeah, it's basically what it comes down to. What's the footprint, you know? And we live in a world right now where the PGA Tour hasn't been to New York, Philly, or Boston in years. And, you know, the marketplace up here is just starved for it. I mean, we'll see it in September with the Ryder Cup, what it's going to be like. This place they're about ready to blow the roof off of it to get professional golf, to get elite professional golf back.
Have you ever gotten a lot of confidence with someone on your bag?
I've never played with a caddy before. The only caddy I ever had in my life was a cart girl caddy in Myrtle Beach for a bachelor party.
Was she a stripper?
Where they didn't care. Maybe.
The Pat Mayo Experience.
Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Pat Mayo Experience. Experience.
Welcome to the Pat Mayo Experience, presented by Underdog PGA Championship. Player by player, breakdown. We got bets for you on the early side because we were recording this before the conclusion of the Truist Championship. Want to remind you all to smash the like to the episode. Subscribe to not only Mayo Media Network on YouTube, you subscribe to the audio podcast for the Pat Mayo Experience on Apple and on Spotify. And in the comment section right now, what I want to hear, your winner for the PGA Championship. Curious to see what the peoples are doing. Use code MAYO at Underdog right now as well and get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Additionally, you will get a free pick for the PGA Championship if you use code MAYO, and you can always use free picks in the pick'em game. It's free square. You might as well win some money, all right? Joining me on the line to go player by player and break this all down, up first, host of the Preferred Lines podcast. You can check that out on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Joe Adone, what's going on, my man?
What's up, Pat? What an honor, as always, to get the call up. Looking forward to this one. Usually I feel like we fly into these like PGA Championship, US Opens pretty blind in terms of expectations for the course. We know exactly what Quail Hollow is likely to bring us, so fired up to break it down player by player with you this evening.
Co-host of the Fantasy Golf Degenerates on this, the Mayo Media Network, Kenny Kim, my man, how you doing?
Pat, thanks for having me on. Always a blast doing these shows. Looking forward to this major. It should be fun. Like you said, the course, we know how it is. It should make it easier to handicap, but it's golf. We shall see.
Well, Joe, let me start with you about the course. It's Quail Hollow. It's going to play over 7,600 yards. It's going to be difficult. Do you think that the regular rotation of Quail Hollow is going to tell us much about how this is going to play at a major? I only say this because when I go back to 2017, the last time that Quail Hollow hosted the PGA Championship, it was a bunch of names I would not have expected to be at the top of the leaderboard.
Yes. So twofold there, I think, in terms of answering that. One, I think it's going to give us clues, especially because we haven't seen it since 2017. We kind of have an idea of the routing and the skill sets that are typically rewarded here. To your point, a lot of those skill sets weren't the way the later leaderboard shook out in 2017. And the biggest difference for me, Pat, is like what we've seen over the last couple of years is you can really get away with missing the fairway here and get away with it. Particularly the year that Wyndham Clark won, I think 2 years ago, he hit like 40% of fairways. That was not the case the last time the PGA Championship was. The penalty for missing a fairway that year was one of the highest recorded in major history. So I expect the rough to be up. I expect it to play a little bit different in that regard to what we're used to seeing it when it was the Wells Fargo.
Kenny, would you expect bomb and gouge to be the way to play this week? Or do you think it's going to have to be a Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood, Patrick Cantlay type player off the tee where they're just going to hit a lot of fairways, they're good with their long irons, hit a bunch of greens in regulation, and just avoid all of that trouble?
I think if it's going to be a bomb and gouge type of player, it's got to be like the bombiest of bombs. You know, like a Rory, like a Bryson, someone who could hit it out there 330 in the rough. And I love Bryson this coming up week with his longer, shafts for his shorter irons. I think that should help through the rough. But yes, I think we could see something like we saw. I mean, we had Kevin Kisner in the top 10. Right at this event last time it came out. Like a grinder can go out there, limit his mistakes. I think what you're going to see when you watch is you're going to see a limited amount of birdies, but you're not going to see like doubles and triples. So, guys who can grind it out, who can make the difficult pars, get the birdies when they get their chance. I think that's something that we can see also along with the guys who hit it, 330 in the air.
So what we're doing right now is going player by player and breaking down who has the best chances to win the PGA Championship. I'll reveal some of the bets that I've made so far. For more detailed information on the course and the full research into anything, stay tuned on Mayo Media Network over the weekend. Keith Stewart is going to be joining me. He's boots on the ground already at Quail Hollow, and he can tell us more of the differences between this sort of major setup and the regular rotation Quail Hollow that we see on an annual basis. So you don't want to miss that. Plus, me, Jeff, and Custer doing a PGA Championship draft. I want to throw that to you guys very quickly. If you had to draft one PGA, the best PGA Championship of the past 15 years, Joe, what would it be?
Oh, wow. I'll say Oak Hill. It was like the recoronation of Brooks Koepka, who's obviously been my favorite player since I started doing golf content. Major number 5. I had a huge bet on him that week. We'll have fond memories forever of that one from a few years ago.
Kenny, what would be yours?
I don't know. Maybe the JT one recently because it's like actually one of the majors that I hit. I never hit a major. and so that was one of the majors I hit, either that or a Kepka one because I do love Kepka as well. But none of them really stick out
I don't want to
too big for me.
I don't want to spoil the entire. It's only like a 20-minute conversation. I think I'm going to put it in the research show, and we'll have a live stream of all the content on Friday on the network as well. If people just want to jump ahead, get some early looks at the research show and that draft. But it's got to be Phil at Kiowa. That was awesome.
Yeah, I rethought about that as soon as I said my answer when Kenny was going. Phil at Kiowa, even though I had Kepka that week, was in the final group with him. That was the best story, one of the best stories we've seen in golf beyond maybe like Rory at this past Masters, Tiger at the Masters. That was one of the Mount Rushmore storylines that I can remember in terms of my history watching the sport.
And Kenny, it was one of the first like massively packed golf events, majors at least, post-COVID. Remember Phil almost got gobbled up by the entire crowd on 18?
Yeah, I mean, that was pretty amazing. I guess for me, I could barely remember stuff that happened 2 days ago. So 2 years ago is tough for me. That could be the issue why I didn't think of it.
That's why we have to have Tim Sobercust on these shows when we're talking about historical things, because everything just pops into mind. Best player in the field is Scotty Scheffler. Debatably at this point. He is coming off a gigantic 8-stroke win. All of the odds are powered by coolbet.com. And if you live in Canada, outside of Ontario, you can go to Coolbet right now. There's a giveaway. You can opt into the contest right now down in the description. They're giving away a free trip to Cabot Links and Cabot Cliffs in October. So you can just go opt in. If you're playing at Coolbet anyway, use Sports 200, go sign up, get yourself a bonus, and try to win that free trip. It's in my backyard, so I play these courses every year. They are two of the best courses in the world. I would highly recommend that you go do that. But Scotty Scheffler, 4.5 to 1, 4 to 1 right now at Coolbet. Joe, this does seem to be a situation, if the rough is grown out a little bit more, we know that Scheffler does sacrifice distance for accuracy, that this could really play to his advantage.
Yeah, I still think that he's plenty long enough to get it done. Like, what have we seen give Scotty Scheffler trouble in major championships? It's unpredictability, it's spotty lies, it's Open Championship fescue, it's that weird wire grass at Pinehurst. That's not the case at That's not the case at Quail Hollow. Excuse me. He's got a game that's clearly built for major championships of this level. The best iron player in the field, hot putter right now, coming in straight off a win at the CJ Cup. He's gained like 7 at Houston, 6 at last week. So he's got a hot putter. The guy just gained 23 strokes on the field a few days ago. I feel pretty good about Scotty Scheffler heading into this week as the best player. That said, 4 to 1 odds in a major championship isn't something that I'm running to bet.
Yeah, 4 to 1 for me, Kenny, is tough just based on how well some of the other guys are playing at the moment. He's not a clear-cut better than everyone right now.
No, he's not. If you think about it, I guess really though, the only disadvantage he might have, and disadvantage I put in quotes here, is the fact that he's never really played this course in a tournament setting. But honestly, that might not be a bad thing. Where guys who play this course year in and year out see stuff that's different and sort of confuses them a little bit. He's going in with fresh eyes. His caddy and him will work the course, figure out where to make the right misses. I'm not going to bet him at 4 to 1 with Rory at the same number and the guy who's just dominated this course in the past. If I had to pick and choose, I'd probably go Rory. But you can't count him out, right? I mean, he's going to be in contention. He's going to be in the top 5, I would expect, and he's going to be a factor when it comes on Sunday.
It's funny that he always skips this event. So the one time, Joe, that he played at Quail Hollow was the 2022 President's Cup. Do you know what his record was at the President's Cup?
Not sure that week. What was it?
Kenny, do you remember? Obviously you don't.
No, I don't know.
0-3-1. He was the worst player on the President's Cup team.
It was a different Scotty back then too.
I agree.
Scotty we know, and I don't even think he might have had his first win at that point in time a couple of months ago, right? I mean, winning against 2022, sorry. So it was probably a little bit before that. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. He's done it at other majors where he's played for the first time. I think he's going to go in there, and I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, the problem is that we're giving him 25% win equity with these odds. I just don't think that he has that in this field. If he wins, I think he is the justifiable favorite in this field. Just 4 to 1 is going to be too steep for me for a bet, but Listen, if you wanted to bet him like minus 110 to come inside the top five, I'm not going to sit here and be like, man, betting on Scotty Scheffler, Joe, is not like the worst idea in the world.
Yeah, listen, I got ripped because I did it last week at 3-1. I guess my take was I felt like I was going to call my spot there. He ended up winning by 9. It wasn't close, and I just look, you can get 3-1 at the Byron Nelson on a course where Spieth is the second best player in the field, and then you get like Ben An, or you can get an extra point and go 4-1 at a PGA Championship where he's got to take on a perfect course fit, and the guy we're probably going to talk about next. All the live guys in flux. You get other guys back into the field. Yeah, he can always win anytime, but you're right, 4-1, holding 25% of that win equity with these other guys at the top all playing pretty well feels like too much to ask for me.
Let's move on to the man of the hour, the Grand Slam champion, owner of 5 major championships, the reigning Masters winner from a month ago, Rory, who has dominated at Quail Hollow over the course of his career. He is plus 475, as high as 5-1 at coolbet.com right now. I feel really stupid, Kenny, because I came on these shows over and over and over during the Masters and been like, listen, if there's one logical bet to make for the Masters, it's Rory. And I was like, well, Rory has this stupid history at the Masters. He's probably just going to gag it away. Now, he tried to gag it away like 8 times, but it didn't matter because he played so well anyway. I just don't know if it's very similar to the Scotty conversation. Like, do I want to give Rory my money at 5-1? Not really.
Yeah, I mean, if you had to make me choose between the two, I'd pick Rory, but I don't think I'm going to bet either. Just because, I like having a little bit of an array, a nice little buffet of golfers to choose from when it comes to a major. And sometimes it doesn't really work. You just pick the best guys. But I mean, you look at what Rory's done. I think this week at Truist is going to be a big telltale sign because, Rory's got the monkey off of his back. It seems like he could probably be more free. He even said on Fallon or whatever late night show he was wearing the green jacket on that it felt like there was a load of pressure off of his shoulder. People around him have been saying the same thing about his attitude. Now that can go both ways. He can either rest on his laurels or come back and even stronger, and he sort of showed that he's not really resting that hard because he played pretty well at dessert. Carried Shane Lowry. I really want to see what he's doing this week to see if his game is on point, to see if he hasn't lapsed in practice and stuff like that. Because another thing you can think about for Rory, and I spoke about this when he won the Masters, is obviously, it's weird bringing this up, but it's a part of his deal. Him and his marriage and his family, when this happens. I mean, he's a family man. He brought back, he nixed the divorce, wanted to make it work. This is the perfect time now for him to focus more on his family instead of golf, which I'm sure is what his wife wants. And is that what he's doing? I don't know. We don't know what he's doing behind the scenes. So I really want to see what he's doing at the Truist to see if his game is sharp right now. And I think that's a big thing. Now, will it make me bet him? Probably not. But I mean, you never know. If he goes out there and, his first couple of days is just whomping the field, then I mean, maybe the 5-1's worth it.
I just can't get there 5-1 because there is someone else that I want to bet in this field and have already bet, Joe, that I think is not quite on par with the overall skill set of these guys, but I think has about as good of a chance to win the PGA Championship as they do, and he's like 3 times the odds. So it's not like I'm going to sit here and be like, here's my betting card, Scotty, Rory, and Bryson. Like, that's not going to happen. So I need to pick one of these guys or 2 of the guys from this like 20-1 tier. You could have 4 20-1 players for the price of 1 Rory. Like, he's not a 20% favorite to win this tournament. He has won 3 of his past 6 starts, including the Masters, including the Players. Like, he's been amazing. This we know, but he was not great the last time it was here. Granted, it was 8 years ago at this point, but he was the overwhelming favorite to win that PGA Championship as well. I do think that maybe his familiarity with this course, and now that it's going to be slightly different, might screw him up for a little bit.
I think it could trip him up. I think that's a fair take. I think, when I'm looking at Rory, I'm just trying to search for a reason like not to bet him at 5-1 because I don't like the value. If there's one thing I could point to, his long iron play has probably been the weakest part of his game that is going to be introduced a lot more this week than we've seen in recent weeks. That said, he obviously understands the formula at Quail Hollow. Like Kenny mentioned, free and loose Rory right now feels like a very dangerous one. But I'm with you. It's like there's a third guy here who I'm sure we'll talk about who feels a lot closer to this bunch than the odds would indicate. So if you're going to tell me that Rory and Scotty hold 50% of the win equity at the PGA Championship, like you, I'm going to look elsewhere to that next tier and try to isolate some value and maybe stack a couple guys together and take a tag team approach to hopefully slay the Dragons.
Now, I'm going to put my curse on him right now. Bryson is up next, coming off finally. He's played 4 final groups in a row between the Masters and Live. He finally closed the door in Korea last week. I love Bryson this week. I bet him at 16-1. He's now down to 14-1. He shouldn't be triple the odds of these guys. What has Bryson not done to be considered on this level over the past 12 months, Kenny?
Play on the PGA Tour?
Just
maybe.
That's it though. But like every time we see it,
that would be it.
But that is it. And like he does. Listen, it was a bad performance Sunday at the Masters. But I think that we forget that there's a lot of really big names that have bad performances late on Sundays. And you like just take Brooks, for example. Like Brooks, what a closer. Like I remember like a 3-year stretch where we just mentioned one. He lost to Phil in a final group. He basically laughed off the entire field at the PGA Championship at Harding Park, and Morikawa went out and waxed everyone. And Brooks ended up shooting a terrible round. It happens to everyone, but the immediate thing that popped into my mind with Bryson was like, oh, is he going to go into a bit of a tailspin here? Because I didn't even really like him at the Masters. And clearly he proved me wrong, Kenny. But the PGA and the US Open are the 2 spots where we should always be looking at Bryson.
Yeah, I mean, I already bet him. I bet him Sunday at the Masters at 18-1, and I got 8 places each way. So I'm happy with that number. I'm a fan of his this week. Like I said, it makes sense. He'll just pound it out there 330. He's got those longer shafted clubs. He could just strike through that long grass with the shorter irons that he has. It's going to give him an extensive advantage, I think, for the week. And, when you think about Bryson and his weaknesses that he has, because of the size of his clubs, uneven lies, stuff like that. That's why it was so impressive what he did at Augusta, because that's something that's been a problem for him. And I think, having all the same size irons has been an issue. But this is pretty flat. He's not going to have to worry about that. He can just bombs it away off the tee. I think this course, the way it's going to be set up for the PGA Championship, is perfectly suited for him. He's the one of the 3 that I already bet. Pat, you like him too. So he might be the popular play.
Joe, I assume you've bet on Bryson as well. And does this start to worry you that everyone in the world is betting on Bryson?
I haven't bet him yet. Full disclosure, I haven't bet anybody. I feel like 14-1 is the number that I'm most drawn to of these guys at the top. He's simply, and you guys mentioned it, and everyone knows it, he's got another gear. So these hazards that they strategically place at 300 yards are Bryson has blinders on to those kind of hazards and bunkers. He's going right over them. And here's the thing that nobody talks about with Bryson, right? Everyone just sees him as this bomber, but he's not Wyndham Clark. He's not Cameron Champ that is spraying it everywhere. He's extremely accurate while hitting at 330. He's hitting 60. I looked at some of the Live numbers. He's hitting 65% of fairways on Live this season. Substantially higher number.
Hold on. They could just be lying about those numbers. Who would ever know?
It's true.
They could 100% be lying, but I'm going to take them at their word for it because they're taking the time to put the stats together. But he's putting up higher numbers, even when you look at the majors in terms of fairways hit, than Rahm, than Brooks, than Neiman. These are the other top guys on Live. Not only is he substantially longer than them, he's hitting more fairways than them. I trust him. It's a classic case to me of objects in the mirror are closer than they appear. When it's Scotty and Rory, Bryson is closer to them than the odds books are giving them credit for. And I think he's shown that in majors. And this is a great spot, whether you mentioned PGA Championship, US Open, to back him on that.
I completely agree. I think there is a big 3 in golf right now. And maybe Bryson doesn't have the overall game of Scotty and Rory. I think if they all brought their A+ games, Kenny, that Rory would be the best. Scotty is by far the most consistent of these, and Bryson's kind of the wild card because he's the one guy who can top Rory in driving. And when you take the 3 of them together, Bryson has improved his around the green game so much, it's shocking. And he's the best putter of the 3 of them. It's just, when it comes to Bryson, this is what we saw at the Masters, and it came back to haunt him, is he stopped being able to hit his irons. And that happens to him periodically. That you just hope it doesn't happen this week when you have money on him. But you're baked in with 3 times the odds of the other guys, and that's really the only downfall of his game. And they all have the downfalls. Like, if Scotty came out and lost 7 strokes putting, Kenny, would you be stunned?
No, I would not. And when it comes to Bryson and his iron game, I think a lot of it has to do, especially at Augusta with the elevation changes, stuff like that, trying to figure everything out. He's so, mercurial when it comes to brain. He tries to use so much of his brain. Sometimes I think he overthinks it. This is pretty simple course, just laid out flat out there for you. You don't have to think too much about, how much I have to club up, club down based upon the elevation change, the stuff like that. He knows what the distance is. He hits his stock clubs that distance. That's what he hits, and I think it's a lot easier than what he did at Augusta when he was flying greens by 10, 15 yards. That's an error in calculation. That's the only way he can make those mistakes, right? In my opinion, I think missing a green by that much, and I think the elevation and stuff like that when it comes to Augusta can give him issues. Here, it's just laid out flat and simple for him. It's perfect.
One of the biggest trends that you can look at to find major championship winners, at least over the past 5 years, Joe, is just take a look at the top of the world rankings. If you're a top 15 player or you're inside 30 to 1 in odds, you have a pretty good chance of winning. These are the pool that we're drawing from. Very few outliers. The last two have been Brian Harmon and Wyndham Clark, and that's not the PGA Championship. When you take a look at the PGA Championship, outside of Phil, who won it 225 to 1 as a 52-year-old or whatever the hell it was, it's been the chalk of the chalk hitting. Like the guys that you expect to play well are just the guys there at the end of the leaderboard. I mean, fingers crossed in golf that we get these three guys in Spieth into the two final groups. That would be the absolute bonanza for the PGA Championships in terms of ratings. And I just take a look at the results for Bryson over his past 5 majors. 5th at the Masters, missed the cut at the Open. We've seen guys miss the cut at the Open. Wins the U.S. Open, 2nd at the PGA Championship, 6th at the Masters, plus the recent form that he has coming in. If you would price him at 8 to 1, I think that people would still bet him, and you're getting him at basically double the odds.
Correct. Everything you said there was spot on. He should be the other two. I'm not disagreeing that should be 1 and 2, but Bryson should be close to them. If they're going to be 4 to 1, 5 to 1, Bryson should be in that 8 to 10 range. Getting 14 feels like the most valuable number at the top of the board.
And here is the interesting part, because the next guy on the list is Xander, who's 12 to 1. And I get it. Obviously, he won 2 major championships last year, including outdueling Bryson at Valhalla, at the PGA Championship, Kenny. But there's nothing in his game right now. And this is coming from a guy who bet on Xander Schauffele to win the Truist this week. I think that I'm still getting the potential of him getting back to where he needs to be. But since coming off his Marilyn Manson surgery, it just hasn't been the same.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. I bet him at the Truist too, but with 3 places on the book that I use, I got him at 25 to 1, right? I mean, that just seemed like insanity to me. So that's why I put the number. 12 to 1's a little bit different, especially with the guys around him. I know with Bryson added to the fold, and there's no Scotty playing the Truist either. That makes it a little bit different. I don't see that number as value anymore. For the Truist, I did at 25 to 1, but 12 to 1, I don't. Now, I do think he's going to come out of his little funk that he's having. You've seen glimpses of ball striking genius from him in the last month and a half, gaining 12 strokes, in one event with his irons, and I think it's going to come back. But I mean, if I can get him in the 20s, I would definitely think about it. But 12 to 1 for what he's been doing so far, and the people that he is playing against at the Wells Fargo at the PGA, I think that number is not as valuable as it was for the Truist.
I completely agree. And Joe, the biggest problem with him, the putter has not returned since he returned at Bay Hill. I think the most he's gained in a tournament is a stroke putting. It's usually way in the negatives, which is not typical Xander Schauffele type of golf. We expect him to be very good on the greens. That's kind of part of his whole deal. And then you have the off the tee stuff where he's still gaining a bunch of distance like he always does. Dude can't hit a fairway. And it's not like he's such a prodigious bomber like Bryson and Rory that maybe he can get away with missing fairways here. If he's missing fairways and he's not as long as those guys, even if he's long enough, it's just going to make the degree of difficulty too hard for this course at 12 to 1. Kenny's right. If he was 25 to 1, I'd bet him.
I think we do get closer between 18 and 20 by the time this thing starts up next week. When the odds adjust, he'll definitely be behind Bryson, in my opinion. You mentioned the two negative things, right? The off the tee stuff. He still has his speed. He's not hitting fairways anymore. And the putter has gone completely cold. And I don't know if it's rust. I don't know if it's something small with alignment. I don't know if it's a grip change, what it quite is for Xander. But I know that when you lose a stroke putting in like 8 or 9 consecutive tournaments, that you have no confidence anymore with that putter. And that has to be the case right now for Xander Schauffele. Big week for him in Philly. I think everyone's going to have a close eye on him. And a lot of people were on him this week. I want to see how he plays, just like you do. And I think those approach numbers too, like you have to understand when you're looking at last 20, last 24, last 30 rounds, that tournament that he had at the Valspar was the single most strokes gained on approach of any player on any tour all of 2025. That's inflating his strokes gained approach numbers so high. So when he ranks 5th in your model, a lot of that's coming from one tournament. If you look at the last 8, he's gaining a stroke or 2 on approach. If he does that next week at Quail Hollow, it's not good enough to win with the other deficiencies of his game. That said, back-to-back second places at this event. If there's anything that he can kind of lean on, it's maybe a little bit of course history, but he did get the doors blown off of him last year on Sunday by Rory McIlroy. So I don't know how much that factors in as well.
Yeah, the last year Sunday at Quail Hollow, not PGA Championship.
Yes.
He won that. He played very well Sunday at the PGA Championship.
Yeah.
As I recall. I think he won. I don't remember. No, he did. I'm looking at
21
right
under par.
Yeah, that's
21 under par.
Listen, I am a Valhalla defender. I believe I took it in the draft because I actually thought that Sunday was amazing. As much as people shit on the course for being, oh, it's too easy. This isn't a major championship. Sometimes it rains, Joe, and the course gets easy. What are they going to do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought, Valhalla, I think it's a decent comp to this place as well in terms of what I'm looking for from other player skill sets. I think there's too many holes right now in the game for Xander to me to jump there over some of these other guys right in this 20-1 range.
Well, let's stick with another guy who's been underperforming recently, and that's Ludwig. And he's still, very near the very top of the board. He's 14-1. He won at Torrey Pines earlier this year. But Joe, since he did that, I don't want to say he's in a tailspin. He just hasn't been all that good. He kind of made a little bit of a run at the Masters, but it was a backdoor type situation, and he still didn't have his best stuff. He hasn't had his best stuff in ages now.
Yeah, well, I mean, ages. If you go back 3 months, I technically had it. But yeah, the last couple of tournaments he's played, clearly the approach play is what has been killing Ludwig Åberg, particularly with the long irons, which he's going to have to hit a lot of around Quail Hollow. I have some optimism, though, with him. A couple of weeks off. Look, he's been really bad on approach, lost in 4 of the last 5. I see some similarities maybe that you could draw there between a course like Torrey Pines. Look, a lot of long holes, a lot of 500-yard par 4s. They're right in front of you. Just go out there and hit that narrow strip of fairway, hit it as far as you can, and try to gouge it out onto the sort of tiny greens. And the thing about Ludwig that I'm also a little bit optimistic about, and I'll be interested to see how he does this week at Philly Cricket Club, his putting improves vastly the more fast and difficult that the greens he plays on. His best putting performances of his career at Augusta, Olympia Fields, Pinehurst, Arnold Palmer Invitational, major championship level courses where the difficulty on the greens goes up. So does his performance on the greens typically. I'm always a Ludwig stan, but yeah, missed the cut at last year's PGA, has never played Quail Hollow. There are some concerns there if the number stays around 18-20-1, where I don't feel like it's a great bet necessarily.
Even if it stays there, Kenny, currently it's 14-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's too low for me. I mean, again, if you get him in the 28s, maybe the 30s, if it goes that far, then maybe it's something to think about. But I mean, the thing about him is he really hasn't really performed. It's small sample size. But outside of Augusta, he hasn't really performed that well at majors. I think he has a couple of miscuts, but he had those 2 strong finishes at Augusta. We did see him win at tough Torrey Pines, and you're right. When you look at his numbers on difficult courses, difficult long courses, it seems to stack up pretty well for him. I think he's going to win Augusta a couple times. But this week for the PGA, it makes sense because of the way he drives the ball, right? Because he is so long and he is fairly accurate with his length, and that is going to give him an advantage. But with the rough being up, if he misses these greens, he's going to have a problem. His short game is not very good at all. And so I'm probably going to be off of him for the PGA Championship.
Yeah, I would need a 2 in front of his name and probably even a 5 to go after that. Because I believe that you're right. And Joe, you can comment on it too. He has the exact perfect skill set for this course. That if he shows up and wins by 4, you're like, man, I feel stupid for not betting him. But then you look at a 14-1 next to his name, like, I don't want to take that risk. I can bet him for the same number I can bet Bryson.
Yeah, that's always the case with Ludwig right now. I actually bet him this week at Philly. I think there's some sort of maybe a psychological or a real advantage to going to a course that nobody's seen before. It kind of levels the playing field. For him, never seeing Quail Hollow, never performing well at a PGA Championship. Now he's young. I'm not going to fault him for that. But there are so many guys who have been to Quail Hollow 8, 9, 10 times before, whether it's a major or not, that this is sort of a unique scenario, unlike Oak Hill, unlike these places that we see for the very first time, like Valhalla, where he's at a little bit of a disadvantage this week that I don't know if it's necessarily factored into his price point.
Yeah, well, there is one way you can spin it back. If you want to take the glass half full on Ludwig here, Kenny, you can say the skill set is a perfect match. Putt's better. He's like Zalatoris-esque on major championship greens, where all of a sudden he's a good putter. The short game is a real problem, but Quail Hollow has a history of rewarding young players with their breakthrough victory. Rory got his breakthrough victory here, I think in 2009. Ricky got his breakthrough victory here. It was the Justin Thomas major breakthrough in 2007. And there's been more down the list. Don't sleep on Derek Ernst when he ended up winning here as well. So I don't think it's crazy to think that if things align properly, that Ludwig is very much in the conversation. But the way that we've talked it through, where we see the upside, there's a lot of downside because we've seen him miss a bunch of cuts now, that I just think he's a better DraftKings and DFS play than he would be an outright bet.
Yeah, I mean, especially I don't know how popular he'd be on DraftKings, so it would definitely work out. I like that take where you can get the first major win, the first big win of a golfer's career. I think we might see that from somebody else that we're going to talk about here in the next couple. There's a gentleman from Norway who I like a lot more than Oberg this week.
Colin Morikawa is up next. Currently at CoolBet, he is coming in at 18-1, as low as 22-1 in some spots as well, which I found somewhat surprising because you're going to have this narrative this week about being, you got to be a bomber in order to win PGA championships these days. He is a PGA champion in his own right. He won at Harding Park. Now, that was a hometown course and there were no fans there, but he made one of the most prolific shots in the history of the PGA Championship, making eagle on that par 4, getting it to the green in a spot where he could make the putt when no one else could, and did it with all the pressure on a Sunday. But Joe, we've seen now Morikawa just fold late in these rounds. He's going to have a new caddy on the bag. That's a positive. And if it plays more to what we saw in 2017, he actually has the perfect skill set for this course, where distance didn't make that big of a factor. It was accuracy, long irons, and putting. 3 things he's doing great at the moment.
Everyone's going to go to distance, Pat. We know that. Morikawa is always kind of the exception to that rule, right? He's not the longest guy in the field, but often seems to show up and play really well on Bombers courses. I'm looking back at 2017 now. Molinari, Oosthuizen, Reed, Fowler, Dillette, Kisner, Kuchar. These are all guys in the top 9 of the leaderboard. So if those guys can do it, clearly Morikawa has a skill set with his approach play that can get there. I worry about the same things that you are. I do think that he could get a confidence or a vibes sort of uplift from Joe Griner. I mean, Joe's won here before. We saw what Justin Thomas was able to do with 1 week on the bag. I think just for him kind of being in a little bit of a rut with a win, finding a way to shake things up without changing his clubs, changing his swing, just do something different to try to break through, could provide a little bit of momentum for him. I think we'll know more at the end of this week how he plays at the Truist.
Kenny, have you ever gotten a lot of confidence with someone on your bag?
I've never played with a caddy before. The only caddy I ever had in my life was a cart girl caddy in Myrtle Beach for a bachelor party.
Was she a stripper?
Where they didn't care. Maybe. Not 100% sure. But I know she was a gymnast, because for every birdie that we made, she would do not cartwheels, but like back handsprings rolling down the fairway, like as many as she could. So we definitely, tried to get as many birdies as we had. And we played pretty well. They had like 6 birdies. So she was pretty fucking dizzy. by the end of the round. But yeah, that's the only time I've ever had a caddy on the bag before in my life.
22-1, very fair odds. I'm actually interested in that with Morikawa.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is, the good about Morikawa now is, his short game and his putting has been the best it's ever been currently. And you throw that in with his iron game, went through a lull. And we see that with a lot of golfers when one specific part of their game is starting to improve, one sort of tails off. And we sort of saw that, but it looks like it's all coming together. The issue, of course, with Morikawa is he doesn't fucking win, right? It's been 3 years. He doesn't fucking win. So do you think he's going to get his first win in 3 years with all those dramatic defeats that he's had? Do you think mentally he's tough enough to be able to get that first win in 3 years after all that drama he's gone through with the Century and other tournaments where he's just blown it on Sundays? I don't think so. I don't think so. I think he can make a better DFS play, like you said, than an outright bet top 5. You can get a good number, top 10. But I don't think I would go with him at 22-1. I just don't have faith in him actually winning. I could see him being on top of the leaderboard going into Sunday, but actually closing the deal, I don't see it.
I don't know. It's weird because, Joe, if we had ran these odds a month ago, it feels like Morikawa would have been 12-1 and Xander would have been 22-1.
Well, it's clear inflation, but like just look at this week. Just look at the truest, right? Xander, Ludwig, Rory, Justin Thomas, they're all essentially the same odds next week at the PGA Championship. For some reason, Colin Morikawa goes from being second on the odds board this week at right around 14-1 up to 22. So he gets an 8-point bump while all the other guys stay the same. I'm kind of with Kenny. I don't like betting Colin Morikawa. I won't bet him. But it's hard to deny that there is some value in just the sheer number there moving up from what it is this week when that isn't happening for the other guys in the field right around him.
Morikawa, I think, is still the most profitable golfer I've ever bet on because I stopped betting him when he started to go through his lull, Kenny. So I had him at the workday. I had him at the PGA Championship. I had him at concession because these are the types of odds that I was betting him at. The moment that he started to crack through 20-1, it was no longer for me. And everyone else wanted to bet, well, the win is coming. The win is coming. And then the win never came. I think that there's a big difference between him and someone like Patrick Cantlay, who hasn't won in ages. Like, Cantlay hasn't even really contended at any of these tournaments. He just does his top 20 every single week and moves on. At least at major championships, Morikawa hasn't won, but he has been a factor into the weekend a bunch of times. And I think if you just consistently put yourself into that position, eventually you're just going to win.
Yeah, I mean, I think you need to win somewhere else first. You know how difficult it is? It must be to try and get your mental fortitude right after all this stuff has happened where you've blown leads that you definitely should have won. It's in the back of his mind. To do that with the pressure added on of a major just seems like it's too much for me.
How about someone like Jon Rahm, who's 18-1 this week? Another guy who he has not finished outside the top 10, Kenny, in any live event this year. Hasn't won.
Yeah, I think the problem with Rahm is, the talent's there. He can ball, but I think because he went to live and I don't think the move went the way he thought it was going to go for him. I think he thought that maybe it was going to change it. People were still going to like him. People weren't, but I mean, like he seems like he wants to be a liked guy, right? And when it comes to it, and then the pressure that he feels now of having to make that jump to live and then underperforming in majors since the jump has to be in his mind, right? And again, golf is such a cerebral game that little things like that can get into golfers' mind. I mean, if you saw him at the Masters, he was angry John again, like Hulk John. You know what I'm saying? Like that's the John that you saw at Augusta. And I think the pressure of him being at live and being, the biggest guy to make the jump and not performing as well as he should at majors has put a little bit, as weight on him a little bit. And I'm worried about that. Now, I'm not saying he can't go out and win this event, but, just that added little bit of a pressure. And, I think it's easier for him to snap when stuff goes wrong. Because what we saw with Leighton John's PGA career was he was sort of able to rein that back, right? It wasn't Hulk Rahm all the time. He was able to rein that back and then, he still had it, but it wasn't like such a big part. You didn't visibly see it all the time like you did at the last major that we saw him play. And so, I think that sort of helped him win all those events towards the end of his PGA career and the majors that he won. And I think that has lost in his game. And I think the angry John is back, and I think that's not good for his game.
Since winning the Masters in 2023, Joe, he hasn't contended at a major since. Now, he does have a T2 at the Open Championship 3 years ago now, but he was never in that tournament to win it.
Yeah, correct. He kind of stormed on Sunday, and Brian Harman was out by such a big lead. I need to see like 25, maybe more on Rahm to even consider it. The top 10s are meaningless for me on Live. I'm supposed to be impressed by a 7th in Korea. Like it doesn't get the juices going for me. I'm sure that like maybe this is a little muddy because they change courses every year, but the PGA Championship, when you look at his performance over the years, has been far and away the worst of the 4 majors in terms of how he's performed. Missed the cut last year in Valhalla. This will be his 9th PGA Championship. Only 3 of those has he even finished with a score under par. Has not played well here. Like I mentioned, he's not winning. Neiman's got 5 wins. Brooks has got 5 wins. Bryson's certainly stacking them up. Show me victories on Live. As much as this has maybe worked, that you could argue for a player like Bryson, it has not worked the experiment for Jon Rahm thus far. I'm not here to back him around the 20 number.
And when you start to see Scotty try to get the extra distance, the miss left comes in big for him. And then he's Scotty, so he can just get himself out of it because that's what he does. Rahm's driving, at least for the first 2 rounds, Kenny, at the Masters was atrocious. If he's not driving the ball amongst the best in the world, he has no chance.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. And again, we're looking at way tighter fairways this week than what we saw at Augusta. I just can't get behind him until he starts really. He should be dominating Live. Him and Bryson should be 1 and 2, 1, 2, and 3 every fucking week. I don't care about a top 10. Give me the top 3. He needs to be finishing top 3 every week because he's that good of a golfer, and he's not doing that at Live, and he's not showing up in majors, and I think it's getting to his head. And John's head can go really affect his game. We've seen it. The angry John can fuck him up.
So we did the top tier of guys. We had a tier of 3, and I think it was a consensus between the 3 of us that it was going to be Scotty, Rory, and Bryson. Then I think we're into tier 2. You had Xander, Ludwig, Colin, Jon Rahm, and this guy, the final one, won at Heritage a few weeks back, the winner at this course in 2017, a two-time PGA champion of the Wanamaker Trophy. One of the best trophies in sports. It's just gigantic. It's like a half a Rory when he picks it up. Takes up his entire torso. It's Justin Thomas. And Joey's 22-1 coming off a win. Am I missing something here?
Nice price, 2-time PGA champ, like you mentioned. Look, I think in terms of approach players, the best players right now with an iron in their hand in the entire world are Collin Morikawa and Justin Thomas. He's that good. First and a second in his last 3 starts. So not only does he play well at PGAs, not only has he played well at Quail Hollow, he checks the current form box just as much as almost anyone in the field, except for maybe Rory or Scotty. Like I mentioned with someone like Xander, like I think a lot of putting is set up and just confidence related. And JT's got it going right now. He's gained 15 strokes putting in his last 4 starts. Really, the one lull is he's really failed to pass a test in a major in a long time. In his last 9 majors, he's missed 5 cuts. He has 1 top 30 in his last 9 majors. He really needs to turn that around. I think this is a big week for Justin Thomas. If you're looking for a spot to turn it around, I think he would handpick Quail Hollow as that spot. So we'll see how things shake out, but it definitely feels like my eyes are drawn to him at 22 to 24-1, especially with these names around him.
And Kenny, Joe kind of hit on it. I don't care if he misses the cut. Missing the cut for me as an outright bet is the same as coming in second. If you don't win, you don't win the bet. So I'm trying to mine guys who can get to the top of the leaderboard. I have more confidence in Justin Thomas than Collin Morikawa, than Jon Rahm. This iteration of Xander, unless he can really, I hope he turns it around and wins this week, but if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a wait and see type of deal with him as well. Same as Ludwig. Thomas, at least I know, can get across the finish line.
Yeah, the way I was talking about Morikawa, it sort of is the opposite for JT. He finally got the win after a big lull, 3 years. Once again, he's gotten that victory. He tasted it. He knows what it feels like again. Coming to a course that he absolutely loves, that he won his first major at. I do love Justin Thomas this week. 22-1. I've told myself after the last few majors and doing futures betting and betting before the Monday, of that major week, and then Monday seeing all my guys get jacked up, their prices raised up. You know what I'm saying? And they don't go lower. So I told myself I'm going to wait till Monday, but I'm afraid he's going to win Truist. Right. So I'm really contemplating thinking just getting that 22-1 number. I guess I can get 20-1 with 8 places or something like that with JT like tonight, because he's the way he's coming in. He got the taste of victory. He knows what it feels like again. He's back and he's been playing well. And you said last 9 majors, he's been poor, right? Well, that was when he was playing his worst golf, basically, of his career. Prior to this year, probably the 2 years prior, was the worst golf Justin Thomas has played in his career. So it makes sense that he struggled at those majors. But we know he's a 2-time major winner. We know that he can win. He got like another monkey off of his back. He got that victory. I like him. I think I'm going to bet.
So the last time that it was played at Quail Hollow, obviously Justin Thomas wins, Joe, and I'm taking a look at the numbers right now. He basically bomb and gouged it. He was amazing in driving distance, and he didn't hit a ton of fairways. He was, 12th in driving distance for the week, and he was, of the guys who made the cut, he was like 15th last of the 70 guys who made the cut. So he can get away with it, I think, because of the irons in the short game. If he's going to bring his putter with him, and even when he was going through his putting struggles this year, I think it was really overblown because it was really just 2 tournaments he putted poorly, yet putted really well in all the other ones.
Yeah, he's just got so much going on right now positively with the putter. You mentioned I don't think that he has to hit a ton of fairways here to have success. He's sort of proven that in the past. The iron play is so good right now. The short game is reliable. We know he kind of thrives in environments where he needs to make a shot and pull something off. Now, sometimes that doesn't always work out well for him, but you mentioned when making an outright bet, you bet on that upside, right? You're okay if it doesn't work out and he hits a couple in the water and misses a cut, because it's the same as finishing third. He's not a player that typically plays it safe. He lives for those type of moments and has proven it twice in the PGA Championship. Now gets to head back to Quail in really good form. I think he makes a really intriguing option.
Coming up after the break, we're going to get into the Spieth tier. It sounds like Kenny likes Vic. We're going to keep going player by player for the PGA Championship. Stay tuned. The weather is warming up, which means it's almost time to get back onto the course full time. And if you really want to up your game, you can take the lessons, you can improve your game, but if you're stuck with those old clubs, nothing is going to change. That's why you need to head on over to your local PXG store for a fitting, because they make the best golf clubs, period. I just had mine out for the first time on the course at Pinehurst about 3 weeks ago, and it was awesome. The sound my irons make. I have the Gen 7 irons. They have the chrome top, titanium back. They're awesome. Biggest improvement for me has been the Black Ops driver. I'm carrying the ball about 15 to 20 yards longer off the tee. I'm not a huge hitter. I was about 225, 230 carry off the tee with my old driver. Get the new Black Ops driver, carrying it 245, 250. Hell, I had a 270 drive carrying bunkers down at Pinehurst number 4 on my last day. Once I was really starting to heat up with my clubs, it was amazing. It was so easy to get the fitting done, and it was the fastest way that I have found to improve my game to a point where I'm ready to tackle any course at this point. You can too. And for a limited time, you can save up to 20% on your entire order. Head on over to pxg.com/patmayo. That's pxg.com/patmayo to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/patmayo. Restrictions apply. See site for details. The weather is warming up, which means it's almost time to get back onto the course full time. And if you really want to up your game, you can take the lessons, you can improve your game, but if you're stuck with those old clubs, nothing is going to change. That's why you need to head on over to your local PXG store for a fitting, because they make the best golf clubs, period. I just had mine out for the first time on the course at Pinehurst about 3 weeks ago, and it was awesome. The sound my irons make. I have the Gen 7 irons. They have the chrome top, titanium back. They're awesome. Biggest improvement for me
has been the Black Ops driver. I'm carrying the ball about 15 to 20 yards longer off the tee. I'm not a huge hitter. I was about 225, 230 carry off the tee with my old driver. Get the new Black Ops driver, carrying it 245, 250. Hell, I had a 270 drive carrying bunkers down at Pinehurst number 4 on my last day. Once I was really starting to heat up with my clubs, it was amazing. It was so easy to get the fitting done, and it was the fastest way that I have found to improve my game to a point where I'm ready to tackle any course at this point. You can too. And for a limited time, you can save up to 20% on your entire order. Head on over to pxg.com/patmayo. That's pxg.com/patmayo to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/patmayo. Restrictions apply. See site for details. If you're looking to up your game this summer, Tour Striker Online Golf Academy gives you the real coaching you've been missing. Monthly personal swing analysis. You send in your swing, boom, you'll get your feedback from a coach every single month. Premium weekly video tips, an expanded and enhanced library of tips reserved only for Academy members. I've been digging into these ones since I got my Tour Striker Online Golf Academy account, and my short game really starting to improve. That's where I needed to go immediately, and boom, there were tons of tips for me to help myself get up and down for par instead of just making bogey everywhere. Many golfers make getting better way harder than it needs to be. They try to Frankenstein a swing by watching some YouTube videos and an Instagram reel, and all of those tips don't work in conjunction with each other, which you're going to get at the Tour Striker Online Golf Academy. And the worst part is, if you do it by Frankensteining it together, you pick up bad habits that are really hard to unlearn. I know, I went through this for years. It's frustrating, it's slow, and it leaves you stuck way longer than you need to be. So what you need to do is head to tourstriker.com/TSGA and use the code MAYO to get your first month of Tour Striker Golf Academy online free, plus instant access to 2 bonus courses, the recipe for better golf and bombs, and how to consistently smash the driver, a $194 value. That's tourstriker.com/TSGA, then use the code MAYO. Joaquin Niemann, 30-1 to win the PGA Championship. No major finish inside the top 15 in his career, but he is Mr. Live. This should be an excellent course for him. There's no way he's getting my money.
No way. I have zero interest in this number. Look, I talked to Jeff last night on my show. He tried to really sell me on him. He's still reeling and hurting, by the way, about the Herbert comp tweet you put out a couple of weeks ago. But his prowess on Live, like, it's funny because I feel like it actually hurts the credibility of Live a little bit that he's winning all these events and can't show up in a major championship. For the sake of that tour, he needs a good week. It seems like the PGA Championship should be a great setup for a player with the skill set of Joaquin Niemann, but he's 0 for 7 and finishing in the top 20 in PGA Championships. 0 for 7. I'm going to take a wait and see approach. I know that the skills are inside of him, but he hasn't brought those to the table in a major yet. Before I'm going to take him in anything sub like 40-1, I got to see it first.
Well, Kenny, if you did want it, CoolBet is offering a 40-1 on him right now.
I need like 60. I need like 60 or 70 for him, man. He's just shown nothing, and now it's at the point where he knows that he's shown nothing, and it's probably getting in his head. I can't do it until he shows me something. I don't think he's going to win this. Maybe if he gives me a top 5 here, I think about him in other majors, but he's not winning this.
It's very rarely that you see anyone win a major, Joe, that doesn't have a top 10 in a major previously.
Yeah, all the trends in any major championship point to that. Having success in these big tournaments in the best fields are important in sort of taking those next steps before you all of a sudden splash on and achieve victory. Now, can it be done? Of course. We saw Wyndham Clark do it. We saw Brian Harman do it. I'm not here to tell you that Joaquin Niemann can't win the PGA Championship. I'm just here to say that I'm not going to bet on him to win this one.
Well, it sounds like Kenny's all in on Victor Hovland to win the PGA Championship. 25-1, Kenny?
I think it's going to go up. I haven't bet him yet. I don't think 20. I think we're going to see something closer in the 30s, maybe 33, which is what I'm hoping. The thing about Hovland is I think because he's such a mental midget, and because he switches everything up so often, and he wants to be Mr. Perfect, he's never going to be the most consistent player on tour. He's going to have valleys and peaks throughout his career, and you got to catch him in the peaks. When you want to bet him outright. And I think he's on his way up to a peak with the win at the Valero, decent finish at the Masters, top 15 at the Heritage. He's trending upwards. His iron game has been pretty good for the last 7 or 8 events that he's played. His short game, which is horrible, has not been so bad where it's been like he's losing like 3-4 strokes, which he's been known to do. With the short game, it's like 1.2. minus 1.3, something like that, not minus 4.2 around the greens or something like that. You know what? That's the way it's been. His off the tee has been hit or miss, but it's been a little bit more hit than miss lately. He's not going to be the most consistent player. He's not going to be the greatest player out there because of the crazy shit that goes on in his fucking mind about changing his swing, which is so pretty, and trying to look for perfection is basically what he says, and he'll never find it. And if that's the type of golfer he's going to be, he's never going to be the most consistent one out there. He's going to have peaks. He's going to have valleys. You got to bet him at the peaks. I think the peak is now. If I can get him 33 or better, I think it might be Bryson, JT, and him, and we call it a day.
Victor 33-1 or better. I think that we'll see a number better than that unless he wins Truist, Joe.
Yeah, 35. I'm in. Second and third, the last 2 PGA championships. I think Kenny hit on a good point there. When things are going bad for Victor, he's constantly searching. He's tinkering. He's got coaches on FaceTime. He's got 3 TrackMan set up. He's on the range grinding, trying desperately to figure it out. Talked to Matt Gannon this week, who was at the Truist, who watched him for the range on 2 days. He says the first time all year he's seen Victor, no coaches around, no TrackMan. Dude's feeling it. And that's the sign that he's in really good form. He missed those 3 consecutive cuts, but has come back with 3 really good starts. The approach play has been ultra solid. He's hitting a lot of fairways. I just really like him. And you mentioned the around the green stuff. Of course, that's his main kryptonite in his game. But I think of all the 4 major championships historically, the PGA Championship is the most forgiving for poor around the green players. In fact, he's played the PGA 5 times, gained strokes around the green all 5 times in the PGA Championship. He's made every cut every time he's teed it up at one of these events. I really like him this week. I think that he's at ease, he's in form, and I think that he makes a good bet, and he's got the guts to go out there and win it.
I'm with you. I always thought that the PGA champion, when I was betting futures on Vic 5 years ago, at the beginning of every year, I would just take Victor Hovland 125-1 to win the PGA championship because it seems to be the best tournament setup, Joe, for his skill set. And you seem to agree.
Yeah, there's something about it. There's some, even though it changes courses every year, there's some sort of consistency in the people that are in charge of setting up the event. Clearly, that is something that has clicked with Victor Hovland. 2 podium finishes the last 2 years. And I don't remember, but I know last year at Valhalla, like he was showing no signs of life really leading into that event. At least now we have a win 3 starts ago. We have a 13th at the Heritage. We'll obviously see how things shake out for him this week at the Truist Championship, but coming in with much more confidence this year on a setup that typically rewards his skill.
Well, you've been digging into the live stats. You love Brooks Koepka. Can you sell me on Brooks turning it all around at the PGA Championship?
Yeah, I'll sell you on Brooks turning it around. He's probably going to be 45-1. I think that number continues to float. I think people are kind of sleeping on some of the ball striking stuff that he's done on live. He got an invite this week, I saw, to the Ryder Cup dinner. He needs a good week. Let's face it, to be on that team. I think Keegan wants him on that team. In terms of the 4 majors, I think that the PGA, he's got 3 of them, right? He's been awesome in these. Going back to 2016, the last 10 years, he's never missed a cut at a PGA Championship. Only once in the last 10 years did he finish outside the top 30. That was even during the dark days and the doom and gloom of Brooks Koepka. He's got 3 wins and a runner-up, clearly has something going. T13 in his younger days back in 2017. The dude is absolutely making a ton of birdies right now, but he's making bad bogeys, like doubles on par 5s. He has to eliminate that. The thing with Brooks is when he mentally checks out, like he did at the Masters, it's over for him. Like that missed cut was one of the most demoralizing things I've ever seen when he basically just gave up on the back nine of Friday. He needs to get off to a hot start, maybe get a pairing of something of comfort. And I think that if you're talking me into 45, 50 to 1 on Kepka, which is I think is the number that we ultimately can bet and get, I'm going to be in.
35 is the top of the market right now. So you might be right. And Kenny, taking a look at his live stats, it's pretty clear the ball striking is actually quite good. Dude can't putt anymore. It's really strange.
I think, didn't he just change back to an old putter? I could be wrong about this. But when it comes to Koepka, I have to bet him. I've sort of backed myself into a wall. I said after his last major victory, which he got his fifth, that if you bet $50 on Koepka at every major for the next 5 years, which would be 20 events, you're going to come out on top. Is the way that I came out. He's going to win at least one more, which normally he'd be priced anywhere between 20 and 35 to 1 is what I thought. That just as an investment, just put the $50 on Koepka at every major, and he's going to hit one of them. I've done it for 7 straight majors since his last win, and he's lost them all. But I got to keep doing it because it was something that I made a big deal about at that point in time. So if I don't make the bet, it would look silly. So I have to bet him. So I'm hoping his number is ridiculous. I'm hoping I can get him with 3 places of like 60 to 1. That would make me feel a lot better. But yeah, I've sort of forced myself into betting him. Now, when it comes to the whole thing, the narrative part, which I like, is he's a guy that always plays better with a chip on his shoulder, right? When people doubt him, when somebody else is coming at him, and he feels like he has to defend himself, Rory got the 5th, right? Rory got the 5th. He's tied with Koepka now. Maybe that would give him a little bit more energy to come out there and really focus at these majors because that's the type of guy that we think he is. We'll see. We'll see. If I didn't have this thing where I have to bet him, I probably would.
Since his win at the PGA Championship, when you made that proclamation in those 7 majors, Joe, Kenny's guy has not come inside the top 17.
Yeah, it's been a tough stretch for him. I actually got that. I was there for, I think, 4 of the 5 majors that Brooks had in terms of winning tickets. So I feel like he's earned me enough money that if I see decent prices, I'm happy to keep going back there.
Let's take a look at what he's been up to on tour. Let's see. What's he rank on Live? He's 12th on Live. He has 2 top 10 finishes on Live. That's not great. There's like 30 guys in the field.
Yeah, that's not great.
So I don't know if the number gets big enough, but I don't know if they'll do that to us, Kenny, because people know that if you see Brooks at 40, it's an auto bet. So I think that he stays below 40 to 1.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that it gets as high as possible because I have to bet him. I'm forced to. So I'm hoping for the biggest number possible. I still got to put $50 on it. So either way, that's I got to do it.
Does anyone have interest in betting Patrick Cantlay, whose stats look absolutely, I wouldn't say amazing, but much better than what his results are at the moment? And he's another one. Just all of a sudden, Kenny can't chip or putt.
Yeah, I mean, the problem, it seems to happen to a lot of guys who start getting like a leadership position on the PGA Tour, right? They start doing all these leadership things, being like, big dogs in the meetings room with Yasser and Monahan, and then their game just shits to bed like him. And we saw it with with Adam Scott, other golfers who sort of joined that fray. I mean, there's definitely a narrative about him. I spaghetti lips, spaghetti mouth. I can't do it. I'm not going to bet him this week.
Best in market right now, cool bet 35 to 1, Joe.
Yeah, I can't do it. Like you mentioned, he's doing everything you would expect Patrick Cantlay to do well, except the chipping and putting has been abysmal. I don't know what it is going for him right now, but he's missing short putts. He's not chipping it well around the green. 2 normally like things that you would say are strengths of Patrick Cantlay. And I'm always reluctant to go to a guy when the best part of his game isn't clicking at the moment. Something's up there with the short game. I don't know what it is, and I just feel like that number isn't high enough for me to go to.
If you really want to burn some money, why do it on Patrick Cantlay when you can do it on Tommy Fleetwood at 35 to 1, who I think if you take a look and 40 to 1 right now, sorry, a cool bet. There we go. 40 to 1 on Tommy, Joe. And if you reverse engineer that leaderboard from 2017, the Tommy Fleetwoods of the world were at the top.
Absolutely. And some solid course history here for Tommy as well. 3 top 15s the last couple of years at the Wells Fargo. I think here's the thing for me with Tommy. I think he's sort of lost the boat, and it seems like the last couple of years he's put in basically little to no effort to gain speed off the tee and try to get longer. And I think a lot of guys that have put in that, whether it be Justin Thomas or you can name countless others, have seen some sort of payoff on the back end. When you look at his driving numbers, he's actually gotten shorter over the last 5 years. It just isn't something that is going to be conducive to winning major championships. Now, can he contend with his iron play and his approach play? Yes, but that's not good enough when you don't putt lights out. When you're a shorter hitter, you need to be an awesome putter like Russell Henley, like Brian Harmon. If you want to win a major and you can only hit it 290, you need to putt the lights out. And I just don't trust that with Tommy Fleetwood, particularly in a major to finally, he's what, 150 starts in and hasn't won a PGA Tour event. I can't see it happening at a course like Quail Hollow. I'd be much more inclined to back him if they went to Pebble Beach or someone like, some of the courses in the Open Championship Road, I think are better fits for him. It's not this one for me.
What if I could give you a 50 to 1, Kenny? Would you take that on Tommy?
No, he's not getting his first win in America at a major. It's not going to happen. No.
So,
I mean, as much as like the guy is a great guy and all that stuff, he doesn't win, and lately he doesn't really even contend. I mean, maybe like 3, 4, 5 years ago, yes, he maybe thought that he could maybe get his first win at a major, but not at this point in his career. I think he's dwindling. I don't see him being anything that we need to worry about when it comes to the leaderboard on Sunday.
a bet I made during the major preview show that Cust and Jeff and I did together was Hideki Matsuyama at 50 to 1. I was feeling pretty good about that. He won the opening event of the year. It seemed like sky was the limit, and he was going to be 22 to 1 by the time this went off, and at least I would have had great EV on the wager that I made. Incorrect. He's currently 50 to 1 to win the PGA Championship. I believe he played in the final group here in 2017. His game is not exactly peaking at the moment, Kenny, but he is a player that can kind of grab it out of nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, the one good thing that we saw was the last time he played, he gained almost 8 strokes on with his irons at Augusta. So a little bit of something you could see, like glimpses of something that's happening with his game that looks like it's improving. The guy is a major winner. He played well here in the past. When it comes to longer courses, long iron game's always been a strength. His short game is so solid. At 50 to 1, I could think about that. I could definitely think about that. If it drifts even more, it's definitely something I would think of. You get in the 60s or something with him, he might be the highest odds guy that I have on my card.
Joe, I'd cash it out if I could, but I played it at a place where you have no cash outs.
Side with Hideki though. I actually bet 35 this week. So I'm kind of considering maybe a 50, just a sprinkle, just to kind of protect it a little bit. Look, it was awesome on approach at Augusta. Kenny nailed it, plus 8.6. Fifth here last time, like you said, in 2017. He just has upside and win equity, Pat. Even if he's not in the greatest form and he doesn't check that box for you, just sheerly look at his name with the other guys around him on the odds board. We've talked about him. Cantlay, Fleetwood, Spieth, Lowry. None of those guys are winning tournaments. Hideki has 3 wins basically in the last year and some change. Big time events. We're talking about the Genesis, the Century, this FedEx St. Jude. His upside is still there. And when he can go and strike his irons and gets hot, he can go absolutely nuclear and blitz the field like few other players have the ability to. I trust Hideki, especially at 50 to 1. If we can get to 60, I'll be there.
Well, I'm there at 50, so I hope he ends up winning. I also have a bet on the next guy as a future who is also currently 50 to 1. He was playing great on Live, and now he's not. Tyrrell Hatton, Joe, who I do think is going to win a major at some point. It's either the PGA Championship or the Open, so hopefully it's this year for my sake.
Yeah, I hate to be Debbie Downer here, but it's a big no for me on Tyrrell Hatton. I think it's fair. I think at this point now we're far enough in to question his interest level in playing on Live. He's clearly suffered over the past year. When he first joined Live, like a year and some change ago. It was top 8 every week. He won in Nashville, 3rd in Valderrama, 2nd in Live UK. This was over a year ago. Through 7 events this season in 2025, his average finish is 17th.
Now,
That's
okay,
not impressive whatsoever.
His past 2 starts have been okay.
Okay, so what was that? Korea and the one before that, he gained a little bit?
Yeah, it was Korea and Mexico.
Yeah, he's just getting destroyed off the tee, though. I have him losing 6 out of the last 7 in strokes off the tee. Don't think this is the course where he gets it done. I don't disagree with you that he can win a major championship in his career. I don't see it at this venue.
Yeah, unfortunately, Kenny, it's also at a site where I can't cash it out, so I'm stuck with a hat and 50-1, and I'm going to feel like a gigantic moron when I open up the book when the reset happens on Monday, and he's 100-1.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would expect. I think this number's going to go up a lot. I mean, one top 5 this season, right? I mean, that's it. And it was 5th. Really hasn't been in contention, hasn't been anywhere where you want to be. And he was, doing so well in majors last year. I think you might be right that he sort of took that money and pulled a Cam Smith or or something like that, where he's just taking it, or a DJ where he's just taking, he's on his boat all the time. I don't know what he's doing over at Live, but it's not looking good.
Okay, we're going to do a draft of the past 15 PGA championships. We did this for the Masters. It was pretty easy because I feel like we're all very familiar with the Masters every year. The PGA Championship is a bit different. It's the least talked about of the majors. It was in August, and it got switched to May. It feels like it's more important since it was switched to May, but just scanning the list of them and the ones that popped instantly to my mind, it's kind of crazy. So Tim has the first pick. Jeff has the second pick. I have the third pick. We're going to go in snake fashion. So I'm curious to know where you end up, because I think there's...
I know which one I'm taking.
There's a clear top 3, right?
I think so.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Okay.
We'll see what I take.
I have to me, there's 3, and then I'd say there's maybe there's even gaps within the 3.
So the last one, the earliest one we're going back to is 2010?
Yes.
Okay.
If you have questions about the year, I have the list in front of me.
Okay.
So it's your pick first. Go ahead.
I'll take 2021 at Kiowa.
That was going to be...
I think that's the most iconic PGA championship of the last 50 years, let alone the last 15.
It was the most fun, I think.
It was the first one in the 2 years where we actually had real crowds. And particularly that scene on 18 when they lost control and it was a madhouse. You had Phil and Brooks trying to snake their way through a massive crowd, trying to get to the ball. And the whole PGA tournament, the whole USPGA, you had Phil leading, and where everyone's like, this can't last. This is sort of like when Freddie Couples leads at the Masters. When's he going to fall off a table? Because his form had been horrific going into the...
Well, he had won a senior event.
But his form, against the best of the best, it didn't seem possible that it could happen. Even though, Tiger, 2 years ago had won that Masters out of sort of nowhere. It just seemed like Phil is, he's going to be the oldest major winner of all time. You had Brooks.
Tiger was 20-1. Phil was 250.
Yeah, and you had Brooks in his prime, Louis in his prime, chasing them down, and it's such a golf course that doesn't suit Phil Mickelson. Kiowa is such a bad track for somebody who's so errant off the tee, and yet the moment met the man, and it was just. It's just one of the greatest moments in golf that I can remember.
It's funny to think about because that scene on 18 that you're talking about, and I would have had that as either 1 or 1A with one of the other ones that almost had a similar iconic shot to it. And
he also made the sand shot in that final round, which I think was on number 6, where he pitched in from the sand. And Lundqvist was on the call. It was when he was still doing PGA championships, and it was oh my goodness. That was the first time I allowed myself to think that maybe Phil might actually win this thing.
It's funny because I thought that Louis was going to come from behind and take it from
And he almost did.
Yeah.
And Brooks was chasing him down too. And yet Brooks, I think after the first hole, I want to say the first hole, Phil bogeyed and Brooks birdied. And it was they were tied, or it was just a 1-stroke lead or something. And everything got super tense. Oh, goodness. Okay, I guess it's going to happen.
No, Brooks took the lead after the first.
That's what I mean. Yeah, I thought there was a switch of birdie bogey, and Phil went from up 1 to down 1.
But then Phil on the par 5, Phil birdied the second hole, and Brooks made double bogey.
Double bogey. Yeah, and that was. And then when he pitched in for birdie, it just changed everything, and it was just that most iconic of moments. And then Nance saying that Phil had defeated Father Time, and it's just. I know it was the last time that the whole world loved Phil, I feel like. And it was like the crowning moment. You never thought you were ever going to get another Phil major. He was going to be 5 for his career. And 5 is a fantastic number, but 6 really does elevate you. It puts you up there with Faldo. And like he got it. And no one thought he was going to get it. And it had been, his last major had been the 2010 Masters or 2013 Open Championship, which also was a shock. People did not think Phil was going to win.
And really, he shouldn't have.
And
won.
he shouldn't have.
Dustin should have
But
won.
he played the best back 9 of up to that point anyone had played at an Open Championship at Muirfield. Sorry. So there are other ones that are really close, and I think we'll get to them very quickly. But the 2021 PGA is the one I would pick.
I forgot that Harrington made a run in that too.
That's why you got to go to the Masters the next year. Yeah.
So Jeff, was that going to be your number 1?
Yeah, probably. Be hard to talk off it. But mine also will involve Phil. But it was a losing Phil effort. I'll go to
2014.
Yeah, 2014 Valhalla. Rory, Phil, Ricky in the dark. Phil
great.
pissed that Ricky gave Rory permission to essentially play up and all that that came with it. I just so for me it would be
wouldn't have been the one I picked second, but that's a good one.
So it probably would have been third for me. The one I'm going to pick is Brooks at Bellerive.
Interesting. Not what I would have picked either.
That's the iconic shot of Tiger walk because Tiger came second. It was the first time that Tiger seemed legitimately back. And like he had played well in a few tournaments. I think he had won the Tour Championship the year before that.
Interesting.
And just it seemed like a real moment because Tiger was involved, and it was almost like it was Brooks's first PGA Championship. It was like a coronation for him.
I mean, I like the pick. It's not what I would have gone with, but I think it's a good pick.
And there was a lot. I recall Adam Scott being in that. Gary Woodland was up there as well. But like Tiger, it seemed like Tiger was going to win at some point.
I do feel like Brooks ended up winning by 4 or 5.
He won by 2.
2. Okay. All right.
But do you remember that picture that I'm talking about when Tiger walked up?
Oh yeah, no, the crowds were all like I do remember. It was the last August PGA Championship as well because the next year was
to
at
cross a
Bethpage.
bridge to like get back to the clubhouse or something.
Okay.
Okay, so that's the first round. So I'm up next, and I have a huge bias on this, but I think I'm going to save it because I don't think any of you guys are going to take it. I'm going to play some game theory here.
Okay.
I'm going to go to 2010 and take
the Dustin moment.
That's
The
what
Dustin
I was
moment.
doing.
Yeah,
and
of
taking
course.
Martin Keimer beating Bubba in the playoff after Dustin grounded his club on the 72nd hole.
I just remember Dustin
That was the
saying
fucking
afterwards
worst.
how glad he was that he didn't make the putt.
Dustin like
Because he
40
thought he
to
would have
1.
won the PGA in his mind if he had made the putt. And so that was a tough one.
Keimer has such a weird career.
It was the same year that Dustin took the 8 at Pebble Beach and lost
To
the
G-Mac.
U.S. Open to him and Gregory Avray.
It was McDowell who won.
McDowell won, and Avray finished second. Like Dustin, that was a bad year for Dustin.
Yes.
2 majors he had on his racket, and he let go.
And what year did he end up winning?
16.
15?
16
We're
at,
back there now.
at Oakmont, yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be 2010 Keimer at Whistling Straits for me.
Okay.
It sucked because the next time it was at Whistling Straits was
Oh, it was unwatchable.
it just wasn't
Jason
good.
Day won by a million strokes.
He won by 3.
And he shot 20 under par, I think.
He did shoot 20 under.
Yeah.
That is correct. So Jeff, it's back to you.
Might be sniping you, Pat. I know your
Can't hear you,
game
Jeff.
theory. I might have picked that Whistling
can't hear
Straits one though, but because I had
hear him.
DJ, it's just such a
okay.
bad memory. I am going to go. I don't love the choices, but Keegan 2011.
Oh,
I
wow.
mean, insane
Okay. So my second
finish with
choice is
him
mine.
and Duffner.
That was very high up on my list.
Oh, great. Then I get to
Like,
pick
go
my number
open,
2.
go look at this fucking thing. Keegan, Duffner birdies 13.
It was at
or
Atlanta
sorry,
Athletic Club. He blew it. Yeah.
Yeah, Keegan like exploded on the back 9 down 4, and then he makes 2 birdies. Duffner gives a couple back. They go to a playoff. And maybe it's just like I was with a group of guys. It was like just an enthralling finish and more so of like the memory of the scene in the afternoon. But yeah, I don't love a ton of these. So
Okay.
this is where I go.
So you get your number. Your number 2 is on the board.
It's at Harding Park, 2020.
God damn it!
Because you had like 6
That's-
guys within a stroke of the lead coming down the stretch. I understand
That was-
nobody was at the tournament because it was the first COVID major, But like that has the iconic moment is Morikawa driving the drivable par 4
and chipping
eagle.
in earlier in the round.
And, like,
your boy Haotong on the range.
Yes, that was after the first round, but like you had 6 guys with a legit chance to win the PGA Championship there. That one is indelibly
Yeah, but it's worth a
marked.
half.
But it's not. That was an amazing tournament.
It was amazing. It was the first COVID major, and it was the first time that all the best players were together at one time at one tournament.
I want to bet on that, and I still think like it's like a half a major.
All right, it was one of the more compelling final rounds I can remember.
I don't know. You don't get to call that a half major, and then you don't get to say, as we said on the Masters show, when you both said, "Oh, Dustin's win at Augusta in 2020 is perfectly valid."
It is.
It is.
They won major championships.
They're both valid, so they're valid.
There was limited.
I understand why
crowds.
Jeff's
There
not
wasn't
saying
no.
that
Was
because
there
his
no
arch
crowds, or was
nemesis
it
won the
limited
tournament.
at the Masters?
I don't remember. Was it limited crowds at the Masters?
No, there's no.
Yeah, there was
crowds.
limited.
There was no one there. There was the people like working there.
That was it. There was nobody at that.
Yeah,
Masters.
yeah, it's a half. It's a hafer.
Like, I
he gets
remember-
he gets to show up forever. They don't get taken away.
It
But
was
yeah.
Cameron Smith, I think, who hit the shot on 15 into the pond behind the hole that we never knew about because there's crowds back there, so you never get to see that pond back there. But
Hideki
anyway,
went there too.
yes, he did.
The year that he won.
He-
See
yes,
lots
he
of
did.
guys go. What do you mean? That's
But like there's no crowd standing around where he hit.
I played
and
the
they
video
didn't
game
notice it.
forever. I fucking drove in. I hit that.
No, but
pond hard.
he's saying where Cam Smith went in.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
people are usually standing around there, so you don't usually see that.
That was going to be my pick. I just assumed you guys would say COVID PGA Championship. No thanks.
No, now
That's what I would have said. yeah.
now the question is, what do I pick next?
Yeah.
That being said, the other ones suck. That's the problem. So you're
Well,
right. Maybe
no.
I would have picked it.
No, they don't, because there's a couple really good ones here, and I'm not going to probably get to pick again. For excitement purposes, Southern Hills is right there. Of course, with the high drama at Southern Hills.
I mean, you had a direct impact.
I don't
and ruined
think that-
poor
I
guy.
don't think that
'Cause
I
that
did.
guy hasn't done shit since. Poor Mito, man. You cursed him into the back end to live.
So it depends. Like, to me, it's between that one, Brooks at Oak Hill, because that was a very fun PGA Championship, and when we got 2 rounds of golf at Baltusrol, when Jimmy Walker outlasted Jason Day with a chance with 2 back-to-back par 5s at the end with a chance to try to win. But Jimmy Walker is so unmemorable that I am going to go with Southern Hills, Justin Thomas outlasting Mito Pereira.
Outlasting Will Zalatoris.
That's right. That was the playoff. Was Zalatoris and who missed a putt. Zalatoris and Thomas, like the 2010 one. People don't remember who won it. People remember who fell apart. They remember Dustin fell apart at Whistling Straits, and they remember that Pereira fell apart at Southern Hills.
There was 2 putts, Jeff, for Will Zalatoris. Well, Zalatoris made the putt to get into the playoff,
But then missed the winning.
But he missed the winning.
people-
He missed the winning putt, and then he missed the putt at the U.S. Open to get into the playoff with Fitzpatrick by
Yes.
like a half inch.
And people forget JT missed like an 8-footer on 18.
Well, he does that.
But it doesn't matter. I don't really have a good answer. Don't really have a great answer left. Rory blew a keel. Like everything else feels a bit of a blowout.
Well, I think the Brooks one is the one to take then. Brooks at
Or the
Oak
first
Hill, not at
Justin
Bethpage.
one.
Well, he almost gave
Yeah,
away the
the
Bethpage
first
one.
Justin one's at Quail Hollow, where we're at this
yeah.
year.
It was a good tournament.
I'll go back to back
Like, I
on
remember it was
Justin
like, he went
Thomas
7 under par.
PGAs.
It was the first time the PGA Championship really showed its teeth. Was 2017.
I mean, that was
Since Keegan won. Keegan won at -8 over
Hideki
Duffner.
didn't finish second, but I think Hideki was in the final group, and Reed and Louis, Molinari, Fowler.
I
Kisner.
liked the year Duffner won. Only it was also at Oak Hill. It was him and Furyk down the stretch.
Yeah.
Furyk actually had the lead going into Sunday, but it was an unmemorable. Like, you can't think of a single shot that Duffner or Furyk made in that round to make it memorable.
Yeah,
I
I'm
mean, if
actually.
I voted Duffner, it would be just the Amanda factor of like her being part of the day. But
So I was thinking about the Brooks over Dustin at Bethpage. I just found that Brooks basically had that one after
And then
the
he
first
got
round.
really tight, and he almost gave it away in
And
the
then he
last
didn't.
round, and then he didn't.
Yeah, but like
I don't really.
I think Spieth was third. Like Luke List was sixth. Like
Yeah.
it was a very uncompelling tournament. So I'm actually going to take last year's PGA Championship. I know that everyone hates it, but you want to talk about a fun final round? The crowds were going mental for Bryson. It was a birdie fest.
Yeah.
It was like an old PGA Championship.
It was.
But there was a bunch of guys just lingering around the leaderboard, and guys had to go execute. Like Xander had to go execute shots to win, and he did. And him and Bryson going 1v1 was a lot of fun. People just hate that it rained that week. That sucks.
Well, the Scotty got arrested. So
Scotty
it's
got
like
arrested
special in its own way.
Scotty
That's
got
the,
arrested.
that's the moment people remember from that.
You know what?
No, you know what? No,
Pat?
Bryson-
In hindsight,
Bryson-
that should have been higher.
Bryson chipping in at his last shot of the
On
third
Saturday,
round
yeah.
to get in, and like everyone going crazy was pretty good
Yeah,
too.
that was good.
Yeah. I don't think I performed very well in this draft.
I think I won.
You got one. You took 3 of the past 5. 3 of the past 4.
Yeah, for that's
Different
just
than the
ones that-
Masters.
Yeah, the Masters not
This
as.
is why, like Tim's whole thing. Tim, we're gonna invite Tim on Monday because he'd be like, "Remember 10 years ago, Jeff, when you said the PGA doesn't count?"
You did.
So that leaves us the ones that did not get drafted
Was
were
the Rory blowout in 2012.
the Rory blowout at Kiowa. Jimmy Watt. That I hated that PGA.
Well,
Championship.
it was all condensed. It was actually played in July because of the Olympics.
And they put 36 holes on
Well,
Sunday.
but you guys loved the Masters when Rahm and Brooks played for 36 holes together.
Maybe we should have
It didn't get
picked a-
drafted in the Masters draft
No, but like you talked about how compelling that was of the last 5 years.
because
you know?
it was Rahm and Brooks. Like Jimmy Walker's Jimmy Walker. Like it's a lot like Duffner winning. It's like it's great.
If we
and everything.
redrafted the Masters one, would you have taken this one first?
Which one?
When we just had?
No, I think it's still second, but it's more of like a 1B maybe.
Would you take it over 2019? Is it now the Masters we will see till Kingdom Come when there's a rain delay?
No, because
Ooh,
Tiger's
well,
still
you-
like
yes.
Jack 86. Right?
Yeah,
Like,
yes,
that's-
it will be the one because it has the best broadcast quality. That's
Okay.
usually how they take the most compelling one that has like. It's hard to put it on the 2010 Masters
Yeah,
because it's in like box
The
format.
Tiger one was great, but like they played in threesomes and they had to play a bunch.
Yeah, but there was a lot of guys coming down the stretch in that one too.
There
was
was.
just a lot going
There
on,
was.
and I actually thought it was compelling that they played in threesomes because it condensed everyone on the course at the same time.
Yeah, sort of. But like the ending and Rory, collapsing into an emotional, like that's the moment.
Yeah, I think I prefer. I think if we did the redraft, that this year's Masters would be better than last.
I might have enjoyed this year's more, but I would probably still feel I have to draft like Tiger 19-1, I think.
Yeah. So the other one that didn't go, I guess,
Was Day
Brooks.
winning?
Oak Hill.
Tim drafted Oak Hill. We didn't get the Brooks over Dustin at Bethpage. We didn't get Jimmy Walker at Baltusrol. Are they going back there?
Yes, they are going back to Baltusrol at some point.
Jason Day over Spieth at Whistling Straits. It felt like Whistling Straits would have played harder.
Yeah, it played super hard the first 2 times they played there when Singh won in 04 and then when Keimer won. But then, Keimer, he's going to be a Ryder Cup captain soon.
No, he's not.
A 2-time major champion. You don't think even though he went to live, he might be able
Oh, yeah,
to?
Pat, we didn't mention him when we did it earlier.
Yeah, he
If they play one in Germany, how could they pass him up?
if they played one
If
in
they
Germany,
play one
maybe.
in
I don't
Germany-
think they're playing one in Germany.
When are they playing? Unless Thomas Roosmuller's a superstar. Like, when are they going to Germany? They'll go to Sweden before Germany.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I'd be actually quite surprised if one of the Scandinavian countries didn't get a Ryder Cup with so many good Scandinavian players now.
Yeah.
But Keimer would have been behind that list of like all the guys like even on Live, he like Stenson's clearly number 1 because he was the captain until he wasn't. Poulter and Westwood would be ahead of him.
Garcia.
Sergio would be ahead of him.
G-Mac.
Keimer and GMAC I feel like is a toss.
I said to Pat, I think Justin Rose is probably next in line.
we didn't even think about Justin Rose, Jeff.
Okay, but we were talking about more of the live guys. But you're right. Justin Rose is now probably the guy to get it from Luke. Yeah.
One would think.
Unless they
But-
welcome the other guys back.
Yeah.
But I would only, Rose could make this year's team, and Europeans don't usually go from playing to captaining. They usually like enter their little thing for at least once or twice.
What do you think the best Tiger PGA Championship is? The Point over Bob May, 2000 at Valhalla.
I think it's got to be the only really memorable. The only other memorable one for
Medina.
Tiger is when he lost to Y.E. Yang at Hazeltine.
No, he beat Sergio. The Sergio rope
In 99
shot.
with Sergio jumping in the air at Medina. Yeah.
I just opened up that
My
Y.
favorite one was at Oakland Hills.
Y
when,
Yang board.
Harrington won it like 1 under par. That was a really fun tournament. 08, I believe.
That
it was.
Y
It was when he
Yang-
went back to back, or 07. He went back to back majors.
Yes, he won. Yeah, he won at 3 under in 2008 over
Yeah, that
Ben
was-
Curtis and Sergio.
That was a great tournament.
Yeah, why the Wai Yang has to be the most improbable of all of these winners, more than McKeel, more than Rich Beam.
I think he's got to be not just who he was, but who he beat. Like he beat Tiger down the stretch.
Rich Beam beat Tiger too.
Yeah, but not with the same dramatic flair that Wai Yang did with that hybrid on 18 going up the hill.
I know, like obviously Phil is this crazy, like odds to win, like outlier. But, you know, we sort of have this reputation, Pat, of like the PGA Championship of the majors, the Open too, but like sort of opening up to down the board in a way we were all ready to probably discuss, thinking Mito was about to win. But I mean, now you just look at the majors, like to bet next week, like over 30-1. Like, good luck, man. Like, good luck. Like,
So-
look who wins these things.
So even to put it into some context, I think Jimmy Walker was 4th in the world when he won.
Yeah, Jimmy Walker wasn't a nobody.
I think he was 20-1 to win the PGA Championship
Yeah.
when he won. And Day was the number 1 player in the world, I think, at that
was.
time. Rory probably was in 2014, or it was him
12.
or Tiger.
Well, he won at 12, and he was even.
Thomas might have been like 40 or 50-1 on his first
I don't
win.
know what Keimer would have been because Keimer hadn't won really much by that point.
No, but you'd have to go back to Duffner.
Duffner had given away the PGA the year before.
2 years before.
in 2010.
years.
2 years.
It was the Valhalla between.
Yeah, you're right.
No, it was
or
Kiowa.
sorry, not Valhalla.
Kiowa was in
Quail.
between them. Yeah, Kiowa was in between them. Yes, yes.
Trying to think of other really good PGA championships. I don't even remember VJ winning at Whistling Straits.
Yeah, it was the first time it was ever there.
I don't remember
Phil winning
I don't
at
remember that one.
Baltusrol.
I feel like that one was a rain delay on a Monday.
It might have been.
On it, the move to June is the move to May is the best thing to ever happen to this tournament.
I agree.
I agree.
And now we enter next
made the
week
players
with
much
Rory.
worse, but it's made the PGA better. And I wonder if
But-
that's the
and think
trade-off
about
the
it, Tim.
tournament the association wanted to make.
I don't. But
And now, like, we'll enter the next PGA, like this upcoming PGA Championship with Rory, Scheffler, and Bryson all playing incredible.
and,
like,
JT
can't
picking up a win.
And JT.
Can't wait.
I mean,
Like,
JT's won
phenomenal.
the PGA Championship twice.
And at Quail Hollow, that's true. He is
And
a
some
PGA
people
winner.
say, yeah,
Some people say what?
I was gonna make a course comp, but it's is to the some. There's a lot of golf in my head. It was to
I don't know.
Philadelphia, not to.
We'll
Quail,
see. I think
so.
a long shot's probably going to win. I just have a hunch. We kind of do for
But you,
one.
but you-
Define a long shot, like
you-
over
but you think Spieth's gonna
40-1.
win.
Well, Spieth kind of would be in a way, even though he isn't. I like 100-1, 90-1 type of person who fires one off.
I would say a long shot at a major is now 50-1.
When was the last time anyone from that low won?
Well, Phil was 2021.
What's
Wyndham.
that?
Wyndham.
Wyndham
Wyndham,
and Harman
Wyndham at
did
80.
it.
There you go.
Yeah,
And I don't know
They
what
did a
Brian
couple
Harmon
years
was
ago.
at
Oh yeah,
St.
Brian
George's.
Harmon was like 100-1.
Yeah, Wyndham and Harmon, long shots.
Yeah. I mean, I still feel like the Open is the most open
because
to.
it's so weather dependent.
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
but that's where I'd be at. Well, let's talk about Quail Hollow. We're going down south to North Carolina, just outside of Charlotte. What is your experience, Keith, at Quail Hollow? How many times have you been there? How many different setups have you seen?
I've seen two different setups there. I was there for the 2022 President's Cup, and I've been there for a number of Wells Fargo, now Truist, formerly Wachovia, I guess Pick a Bank, and they probably sponsored it there in Charlotte. Just a massive. Now you just talk about a place that is designed like Augusta National or TPC Sawgrass. Everything there is just built out. The cart paths, everything. You know, they host a big event every year. Johnny Morris and the team there, Quail Hollow Club, they want big events. This is their second PGA Championship, one of the few courses that's on the PGA Tour annually that also hosts the PGA Championship. The President's Cup was pretty good there, but you know, year in and year out, the guys enjoy going there. They think it's a fit test of golf, and it will reward the best players.
So when you look at it, you have different types of players than you normally would, at least thinking about Quail Hollow and the types of players succeed. Hit the ball as long as possible, win championships. The Rory McIlroy way of playing golf. But in 2017, it was JT who did employ some of those tactics. But then you had Louis, Reed, Molinari, Kevin Kisner, just guys that you would not expect at the top of a Quail Hollow board to be there. I'm guessing because the rough was grown out so much that if you missed the fairway, it was a half stroke penalty basically on hitting the fairway versus missing the fairway was, I think, 0.44 of a difference in a stroke. So should we be thinking about different types of players this time around? Because I like Bryson. He seems perfect for this course. If you wanted to take Rory for even more expensive odds, then you could go take him. But Should we be looking at the, I don't know, Corey Connors and Tommy Fleetwoods of the world?
I don't think so, Pat.
Okay.
So we got to tell a little bit of a story here. Hopefully this answers your question. But back in 2016, when Johnny Morris and the club came to Kerry Haig and the championship team of the PGA of America, they were like, hey, we're going to redo a bunch of things like the year leading into the PGA Championship. And like that obviously made the PGA of America very nervous, but they did it anyway, right? And they pulled it off because a place like that has unlimited resources, like an Augusta National, right? So they did an enhancement to the golf course to set up for the PGA Championship, and they finished it just in time. And you know as well as anybody from handicapping golf for over a decade that, you know, when you do that, the surfaces become firm and fast. Well, a perfect storm kind of took place there where they had some dry conditions. It was August. It was Bermuda grass. Everything was tight. And now you look at that leaderboard, and all of a sudden, the guys like Kuchar, Kisner, Hideki, you know, like JT, all these guys that are really good short game players came to the forefront because they had to, right? There was only, 12 guys that finished under par in the 2017 PGA Championship. So I think that particular August version, fresh off of a redo, which is what they learned in doing the redo before last year's Truist, and they gave it a year to grow in. And that's why they did it in 2023 and not 2024 heading into 2025, because they learned that from the last time. I mean, basically, kind of the fireworks and the easy course setup that Kerry Haig used on the Sunday in 2017 saved the championship from everybody like basically shooting over par. So the place was like brand new. It was way too firm and fast, and that's why the leaderboard led that way. As far as I'm concerned, I mean, like I would have one question for you heading into this thing. I mean, do you like Rory or do you like Bryson? Because I'm with you. It's a bomber's paradise, and you better be able to roll the rock.
I've already bet Bryson.
There you go. Bet him
Is
again.
there anyone else you can think of just like, because you're going to think bombers, but obviously there's different styles of play. Like I remember, Michael Kim finished inside the top 10 here like 2 years ago before he was even Michael Kim. Abe Answer has won here. James Hahn, or was it? Yeah, James Hahn has won here. I always noticed that there was, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was just strength of field, whatever it might be, that there was at least for the Wells Fargo, not necessarily at a major championship or the Truist, as we're now calling it. But a lot of guys have had a lot of success between Wells Fargo, Bay Hill, Torrey Pines, and Riv. Just those four courses. When you start seeing names like James Hahn win at two separate ones, and then you can pick and choose all the other ones that you want. It seems like those four courses have all shared a lot of similar winners. Is there anything to that, or is it just good players win golf tournaments?
No, well, okay. Those places tend to get the best fields. So you're looking at better players and they're going to get similar fields so that you can see correlation that way. But really, you have to drive the ball great at Riv, and they have unique green surfaces. You have to be able to drive the ball at Quail Hollow, and they have unique green surfaces, much like Augusta National. That would be another great correlation course. It's a major championship venue, and it's going to require you to do things that possibly like what we're looking at this week at the Truist, you just don't have to do, which is like maybe that be all that accurate with your length off the tee. You know, everyone's like, oh, 3 inches are rough on the golf course superintendent's report. Well, guess what? It's May and it's the Philly region. There's no grass that's grown here yet. There's no 3 inches. It's like an Irish 3 inches. Forget about it. It's like maybe 1.5 inches and it's sparse, right? So at the end of the day, like I think the correlation that you're seeing amongst those golf courses is that they're all major championship style venues, and they require you to be really good, to be really well-rounded. Can there be guys that are going to climb up this leaderboard a little bit that are maybe middle of the road? Sure. Yeah, I get it. But like at the end of the day, the skill set that you have to show in order to be top 10 in the world. And I guess maybe Russell Henley's like an outlier, but
how about Matt McNeely?
Well, Matt McNeely got longer. He was already a good putter. Then he's worked on his approach game. So he saw the trend of the Rory, the Xander, the Scotty, of all those guys at the top. I mean, how does Wyndham Clark get into the top 10 in the world? You know, a guy like that. How did Matt Fitzpatrick do it? He got longer, and then he used his short game. So, I mean, I can't get around the fact that the PGA, everyone makes fun of the PGA Championship because they say it's the worst of the four majors. And they might be true, right? But since the move to May, they have had some really, really stud champions. You had Brooks in 2019, the first year, right? You had Phil in 2021, which was electric, right? You had Brooks again in 23. They have put together, Kerry Haig and the team has put together a really, really staunch test. And you have got to be a power player in order to do it's 7,600 yards at a par 71, Pat. You know, it's not 7,100 par 70 like I'm sitting in front of right now at the Wissahickon course. It's a whole different ball game there. And that's not to say that Brian Harman can't have a career week, but overall, I just don't see us having a leaderboard like we did back in 2017.
Okay, and I'm glad you were able to clear that up, because that's the thing that's been sticking in the back of my mind, because I've been full hog go on these bombers who can putt. Like that's
Yes.
all I wanted this week.
Yep.
And I bet on some guys that aren't that, because I bet them really early. I thought I was getting a really good number on Hideki and Hatton. Turns out I got exactly the number that they are. You know, sometimes you make bad bets, but the week of, like, just looking at it right now, Bryson, Burmeister, and then I'll start making some ads. Who are some guys from down the board do you think that have, basically from what you said, and when we talked about some of the other courses, be it Augusta, Bay Hill, Torrey Pines, Riv, is Victor someone, like, you're out there right now? How's Victor looking?
Victor still looks like Victor. The good news around that place is that of the 4 major categories, around the green is going to be the least weighed for all the model heads out there, right? So first and foremost, you're going to have to go with putting. Second, it's going to be driver distance and strokes gained off the tee. Third, it'll be long iron acumen and approach, and then I would go around the green last. So that's a Victor style course. You know, Akshay comes to mind. He's going to be further down the board. I want guys that are aggressive that are going to this place. I want guys that are used to pound and driver all the time. So, like, for me, a guy that might be kind of a wild card, but I thought he would be good this week because he's a good driver, good wedge player, good putter, was Sam Burns, right? Like that style guy that could go off because he's a good putter and he's long. And if he finds enough fairways that week, then he's going to be in the mix. I mean, you could even see something maybe out of a guy like Sahith that we haven't really saw much of anything, because the tour keeps putting him on these golf courses where he's got to be 100 under, and maybe that just doesn't suit his game. But, you know, maybe 12 under par, 10 under par. You know, yeah, I really think that having talked to officials over at the PGA of America, they are aware of all the chatter about Valhalla being 20 something under and multiple guys being 20 under. They don't want to do that again, but Valhalla was wet, right? This is in a really good situation. We do expect some rain early in the week next week, but they have been doing their best to dry the place out. They're growing the rough out. They're adding a half inch of rough versus what you normally see there in the Truist. So I think at the end of the day, I want guys that can bomb it and that can definitely score. First and foremost. Third thing I'd say is that I'd want them to be a decent long iron player, because the par threes are going to take you to task.
I mean, that can also be made up of short game as well, potentially. Like if you can just tread
True.
water on those par threes and then go beat up the par fives, and maybe there's a short par 4, right?
There's 2 of them. The 8th and the 14th are both realistically drivable. And Kerry will put the pins in positions where he'll definitely test people to go for it. 14 is usually the one everyone thinks of because the lake sits down the left-hand side of it.
That's right. Yeah. And if you overcut it, you're into the water. So it's funny. While you were talking, I brought up my driving accuracy and putting modeling. And you kind of hit on the bonanza name. Bryson's number 1, obviously, in this. Sam Burns is number 2.
Yeah. I mean, somebody like Sam Burns coming into form, I would like the long iron play to be a little bit better, but he's been gaining recently with the driver. I mean, that's why I took him this week and I bet him outright here at the Truist. Now, he's having a good day to start. This is Thursday, round 1. Who knows where that will go, but he always gains with the putter. And the big difference, a lot of people are going to say there's a lot of correlation between here and Augusta National, which is true, but only tee to green. It has been proven you have to be a good putter to win here. Whereas at Augusta, we've seen a lot of mediocre putters win over the years because the greens are almost too severe. These greens are almost perfect in that you can make putts if you hit the right levels and you don't give yourself, you have a decent amount of proximity to the hole. So I can't stress this enough. Guys go off with the putter here and they definitely climb the leaderboard.
So if that's the case, how many like tight lies are we looking at? Because Min Woo actually rates out 4th in this. Like, obviously he's going to be a bit more wayward with his driver than most of these guys at the top. Although Rory can dial it in and become more accurate, just like Bryson, the more that they want to ramp that up. If they know it's full go, then they'll just send it wherever. Where I don't know if Min Woo necessarily has that gear right now, but he ranks out 5th when we start considering putting and long irons for me, taking a look at it. But I know that his play out of the rough isn't very good. He is great. If you just got rid of all rough, that's why I always think that he'll be kind of live at any links course overseas. And Augusta should theoretically be really good for him because he bombs it just as far as anyone. And if you get him on a tight surface, he's sort of like the anti-Victor. He'll spin it to an inch. We saw that in Houston, where when it got a little bit easier and wet, he was just like, yeah, I'll try to chip it in every time. Don't worry about that. Will that skill translate here, or is there simply too much rough around the greens?
I mean, at the risk of being redundant, I'd go right back. I'd read the tape right back to you. I mean, you said it, well, Keith, but they can get by if they have a great short game. We know Dr. Chapinski, to be corny with the whole TGL thing, but we know that Minwoo is a top 10 guy around the green, like a Hideki. And the amount of length he's going to have, and he's a better than average putter. If Minwoo shows any life this week, he would be someone that would be of interest to me. Now, I bet him in Houston. That worked out. But since then, he's been really mediocre. And now this is a golf course where he can let the shaft out. And for a lot of those guys that are long like that, it's difficult sometimes for them to come to a place that's shorter or tighter or whatever to like really swing freely. He's going to have to do that there. And that style of aggressive player, again, like an Akshay or Sam Burns, those are the guys that Bryson's the epitome of this. And so is Rory, right? Give me driver on every tee. I don't care how long the hole is. If it's not a par 3, I'm giving it a full send. And I'll deal with it from there. And, maybe thank the Godfather VJ for all of that mindset. But as far as I'm concerned, the PGA of America identifies their championship with length.
The weather is warming up, which means it's almost time to get back onto the course full time. And if you really want to up your game, you can take the lessons, you can improve your game, but if you're stuck with those old clubs, nothing is going to change. That's why you need to head on over to your local PXG store for a fitting, because they make the best golf clubs. Period. I just had mine out for the first time on the course at Pinehurst about 3 weeks ago, and it was awesome. The sound my irons make. I have the Gen 7 irons. They have the chrome top, titanium back. They're awesome. Biggest improvement for me has been the Black Ops driver. I'm carrying the ball about 15 to 20 yards longer off the tee. I'm not a huge hitter. I was about 225, 230 carry off the tee with my old driver. Get the new Black Ops driver, carrying it 245, 250. Hell, I had a 270 drive carrying bunkers down at Pinehurst number 4 on my last day. Once I was really starting to heat up with my clubs, it was amazing. It was so easy to get the fitting done, and it was the fastest way that I have found to improve my game to a point where I'm ready to tackle any course at this point. You can too. And for a limited time, you can save up to 20% on your entire order. Head on over to pxg.com/patmayo. That's pxg.com/patmayo to save up to 20% on your entire order. pxg.com/patmayo. Restrictions apply. See site for details.
So you're at the Philadelphia Cricket Club right now, and you're walking around on the range. Anything to report to us? Guys looking good, guys looking bad? Are the players talking about next week yet, or are they just focused on what's in front of them?
So I thought that was one of the biggest questions in the press room the other day. So on Wednesday, we had Xander was last. We had Rory, JT, Xander. And all three of them, the media knows what they're doing. They were all getting at the fact they're like, hey, next week's a big week. And all three of them, as a bettor for every individual week, I'm worried about like, this course is perfect for Rory, but is he looking ahead? This course is perfect for Xander, but is he looking ahead? It's pretty good for JT too. Is he looking ahead? And to a man, all of them were like, yeah, next week's really exciting. Next week's a big opportunity. So they were looking past all of this. And you could tell with all the work that's going on the range. I mean, Spieth hurt himself in warmups today, but I haven't seen Spieth work this hard on the range at an event since I don't know when. I might not have been out on the road then, because his wrist has been hurt since what he said, like I think 2018, 2019. He just he hasn't been able to put the work in. He was grinding the last 2 days on the green, like on the range, like hours out there. And he was working on something because he thought he could do something special. Unlike your question is more like, well, like I still see Max Homa trying hard. I still see Cam Young lost. I still see Willie Z with like 6 putters. With like he and Siwoo are having they're having a contest who could practice with more putter demos on practice round days. Where we are right now, because we're in the middle of the 100-day 4 major war, what we see is what we get. And what I see out here, I could definitely validate and say what you think's going on is what's happening here at this signature event for sure.
So of those top guys, Where would you put Rom into that mix? I know that you're not following her. I mean, if listen, Liv probably has like an extra $100 million to fly you around. I bet if you went and asked them, they could probably get you out there and see how it's going. Because I know that Patrick Reed is going to be a really popular bet next week because of how well he played at Augusta. I mean, he's someone who plays longer courses and hard courses really well despite his skill set. And obviously, he finished inside the top 5 or top 10 at Quail Hollow in 2017. But the way that you've now broken down the course, that makes a lot more sense because he is Mr. Short game when it comes to a lot of this stuff, that maybe he's absolutely not the right guy to go target for next week. It's almost how like I was all over Sergio at the Masters, and Sergio basically said, yeah, I'm playing Durrell, and I'll call it a season after that. Sucked at the Masters, has sucked at Live since. Of course I get duped by that, but I feel like that might happen with Reed, although it's hard for me to wrangle my mind around. But then you have Rom sitting there. I could see Rom hitting 28 to 1, 30 to 1 by the time we get to Wednesday and no one has bet on him. But I just don't know what to make of it.
He's going to be the forgotten man. He's got the putter. He's won a U.S. Open. He's got the putter to be able to do it at that place, and he's got the driver to be able to do it. I don't know, man. Like I bet Rom at the Masters, and I got to quit. It's just like he is just not as sharp is what it comes down to. And here's what I talk myself into. I go, well, you know what? He's not always getting beat up on by Scotty and Rory. So like maybe he comes in with a fresh attitude, unlike maybe like a Xander. And then what did Xander do last year? Well, he won a major because he's always competing against those guys, right? And then Rom ends up in a flip-flop at the U.S. Open and doesn't play, right? Like, so I think I've got to go with the fact that if you always carry an edge like a Terrell Hatton, I think you'll always be ready. If you're like Mean Dean Burmeister and you can bomb it and you can compete in these major championships, I think you can be ready. I think that if you are John Rahm or like Cam Smith, like those guys, it's like I'm fishing and then I'm going to go to a major and play well. For me, I really feel like Pat, like I want guys that are a little more dialed in, and I just don't know what.
Reed will be.
I'm not saying Rahm's not trying. And if Rahm was on the PGA Tour right now, he'd be top 5 in the world because he's that talented. But you got to be pretty darn sharp to go against these guys week after week, and then tighten it up even more at this major championship. It's gonna be tough. I don't know. If Rahm slips to 30, it wouldn't surprise me.
But, I mean, Reed will stay sharp. I just don't know if he has the skills.
I think that the way the golf course is going to play, he's going to have to play every bit as good as he does at Augusta. Now, I've already said this. The greens here, you have to be a great putter. So that gives him an extra edge. Winning? No. A high value DFS play or a very nice placement? Probably, yeah. I could agree with that.
With the green types at Quail, you mentioned like the Bermuda grass last time around. Is the Bermuda going to be in this time in May, or is it going to be the POA overseed?
No, so this is the first major championship that has a complete overseed of any majors, at least for the century. They're doing POA Trivialis on the greens, and all the Bermuda that would normally be the rough, the fairways, and everything else. It's probably like a 90-10 overseed with ryegrass. So the 90% ryegrass is going to show through, and then you're going to have 10% of the Bermuda kind of being there. But no, it's not going to be a Bermuda major championship like it was in August of 2017. It's going to be completely different. The greens will be. I've heard the place because of the overseed. I talked to a couple people that play down there very often, and the guys that are working on the golf course, they're like, this place is as exquisite as you can imagine a major championship would be. It's like, I won't say that it's like ANGC because that's kind of blasphemous, but man, from what the reports I'm getting is that it is really good shape. They are going to get some rain on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. How much comes through, I don't know, but that's the weather. It's up to the weatherman. But right now, they have that place like totally peaked out.
Well, how does that change then in terms of the rough? Like this is really one part of golf I do not understand. Like, it's when I was down at Pinehurst, like me trying to chip off the terrain at Pinehurst, I couldn't do it. Just jamming my club into the ground, and that would be good enough. I might as well have just taken out a driver and chipped it with a driver the entire time. I would have had more success with it that way. But if you're talking about the difference in the rough, at least between ryegrass and Bermuda grass, is one stickier, is one thicker, is one easier to hit out of? Like, what is the difference between these things?
The biggest difference between ryegrass, which is for people that are listening or watching, that it's like grass like this, right? And Bermuda grass is grass like this, and this, right? It's really like nappy, right? Whereas ryegrass is just shoots, right? Like what you think of as like normal grass. And it can get very dense and it can be tough to get out of. It is certainly way more predictable, meaning ryegrass. Now, I'm talking about that category. It is way more predictable for those guys to control distance and trajectory. Bermuda grass is like a weed. The ball tends to fall to the bottom. They can usually only make it like 2 to 2.5 inches long. It'd be almost unplayable at 3-4 inches. You just could. There's nothing you could do. The ball would drop to the bottom, and then you would just always be chipping out. Bermuda grass is way, way, way more unpredictable. And I think a big part of the PGA Championship going back to a southern venue like this was the idea that they were going to do an overseas because the players don't like major championships Bermuda grass. We see it very, very rarely, and they don't like it because it's super unpredictable around the greens. The ball falls to the bottom or it sits on top. It's extremely difficult to try to figure out trajectory, spin, etc. At least with the other ryegrass rough, you have a general idea of how far you're going to hit it. You won't be able to control spin, but you can at least find your landing areas and maybe hit the front edge of the green, let it roll out, or you can aim for a certain target or quadrant, or maybe it's a greenside bunker because you can't hold like a short side of a green or something like that. It's just way more predictable.
So is that why, like, when we see Bay Hill in March, I assume it's very much the same thing?
Yeah, they are completely overseeded. Yeah, it will look a lot like Bay Hill, and it should perform a lot like Bay Hill because it's going to be demanding off the tee, and the greens, they're going to be softer than probably they want them to be, but the greens are going to be challenging, but you'll be able to make putts, and it'll be a lot more protected from the wind than a Bay Hill would be. And Bay Hill's surrounded by lakes down there, like where I used to work right across the lake at Isleworth. I mean, Orlando or Windermere, where Isleworth is, Windermere means among the lakes. So, they get way more wind affected golf down there. You're not going to see that as much at Quail Hollow. It looks like next week, I've already looked at the weather. It's going to be hot. It's going to be humid. The air is going to be heavy. Ball's going to be flying if it's humid. Here's a quick PSA. When it's humid, the ball goes further. Why? Well, not only are the players' bodies a little bit more loose, but heavy air holds the ball up in the air, right? Whereas when it's cold or it's drier, then the ball falls out of the air quicker. So hot, humid conditions next week, not a lot of wind. Expect length longer to get even longer.
It's funny you mentioned that because I played this morning in the east coast of Canada in 9 Celsius degree weather, complete fog everywhere, and the ball went nowhere.
Yep.
And then,
yeah.
Is it me hitting it that it goes nowhere? Maybe. But I would also like to put some of the blame on the weather at the same time. Hard to cut through that. When your rangefinder doesn't work because it's so foggy, it's not ideal conditions for length.
Yeah. Well, speaking of rangefinders, I know they've been out on the tour lately, but PGA of America, like 5-6 years ago? I think it was Kiowa, was the first time they allowed rangefinders. So they'll have rangefinders in effect next week.
Do you find that's helping pace of play?
Oh, it should definitely help pace of play. I mean, the biggest hindrance to pace of play is that no one tells these guys to play quicker. Now, it will help slightly to have them use rangefinders because when you get off target, the caddy's got to run, put the bag down at the player, then he's got to run out to his yardage book. He's got to find a sprinkler head. He's got to pace everything off, and he's got to triangulate what the distance and the carry distance is. That takes time. If you take a rangefinder and you just hit it, the guy's like, okay, Keith, go over there. I'm going to hit, Pat, I'm going to hit the shot. And then, yes, it would speed things up. Not considerably because the guys just don't play fast. They're never in a rush. I was walking with Cantley's group this morning. So it's Cantley, Harmon, and Hoagie. And we're on a par 4. Harmon hits the cup. He blows it out. And he hits it it goes like 40 feet from the hole. It was an unfortunate break that happens all the time. But he blows out the cup. Well, none of them would play from that point because the cup was screwed up. Not so much that somebody couldn't have made a putt, right? But they waited, an official came over, then they had to call over one of the, the green staff, and then they rebuilt the cup where it was. And then they all checked it out. And then they're like, okay, now I'll play. Well, that took 12 minutes. There wasn't one guy that was even thinking about playing. And you can insert all the Cantley jokes you want, but Hoagie and Harmon were like, no way. We're not doing anything until that thing's fixed. So until somebody is like, hey guys, usher it along a little bit, even with the LPGA, they're like, oh, we have a new pace of play policy or whatever. Just start throwing people strokes because strokes are points and dollars. And that's the only thing that's going to speed them up.
I was going to say do it the other way, that if you play faster, you get money.
Well,
it's not that you play slowly, you get docked money. If you play fast, you get money.
Yeah, but okay. So you and I are fast golfers, and we're in a twosome, but in front of us, right? We're
Oh,
in
yeah,
the
I know.
final group. We're in the final group at Quail Hollow Club, but in front of us is Byron and Jenny Kim, and they're slow as hell, right?
Well,
Like,
it's not their fault. They drank a fifth of tequila. They're passed out.
Well, that's Byron's too busy playing the par 3 game, but I did teach it to him, but that's neither here nor there. But like, yes, you could incentivize guys for going quicker, but the slow ones would still be slow, and then you can't run people over. So it has to be, everyone has to buy in, or everyone just, I mean, really what they need to do on TV is just show more golf shots quicker. And again, another podcast for another day that I could go on at length, but that, 90 seconds of Spieth and Greller over what they're going to do from the fairway, why not just like show 3 full swing shots and then a couple long putts? And people, like, if you change the cadence of the way that the coverage happens, then people would think it happened faster. They're still going to watch for the same amount of time, but when the coverage is slow, then the players look slow, and basically they're slow.
I spoke about this with Jeff on the show on Monday because it occurred to me while playing in a group with one guy who was horribly slow. And because he was so slow, all of a sudden now I'm slow, despite the fact that I'm standing next to my ball the entire time. So at your club, you should have some sort of, everyone has a handicap. Could you have a speed handicap at your club? And then like you're not allowed to play on weekends if you're super slow because you're going to play a 6-hour round. Therefore, everyone is now going to play a 6-hour round. That there would be some sort of penalty for slow play. But it doesn't matter what your real handicap is. You can be the worst player at the club, but you can be fast and then no one cares.
I mean, again, this is a little bit more of an indictment on society. Now, my background, I was a operator in a green grass for over 20 years. And every year we'd have this pace of play conversation, and nothing changes unless you're going to post names. And then when it gets to that point, no one's willing to post their buddy or their wife or whomever up on the board, like in the locker room. You can do it, behind closed doors in the locker room, whatever, and just say, hey, Pat's group was slow on Saturday morning, and then have peer review get you to help be quicker. But if people aren't willing to do those things, or the tour's not willing to give us the name. I mean, the tour doesn't even give us the names of who's slow. They know who's slow, right? When they held a press conference and they talked about using rangefinders, they're like, well, they know how long the average shot takes, whether it's on the rough, whether it's online, whether it's in the fairway, whether it's in a fairway bunker, whether it's on the left rough, whether it's obstructed, whether it's unobstructed. So they know all of that data. They certainly know who the slow players are, right? But the fact that they don't release it and let social media go to town on these guys tells you that, much like what I was dealing with back at the club level, until as a society we want people to go quicker, I mean, I guess join Byron and Kenny and to start sipping the tequila.
All right, Keith, thanks for being on with us. Who you got as the winner for the PGA Championship?
It's really tough for me to get away from Bryson. I think that Rory and Bryson are there in the end. I think we didn't touch upon this, but Scotty never plays quail. The only time he's ever played it competitively was the 2022 President's Cup. He normally skips this signature event, which he's skipping this week after going nuclear in Dallas. That lack of experience and the putting greens versus Rory, who's won there 4 times, and Bryson, who's obviously built for the modern major championship. I think it's who we think they are in the end, and I think Bryson gets them back, which is going to give us a really good U.S. Open, and Bryson's not much of an Open Championship guy, so maybe the best out of 3 for this playoff series happens at Oakmont, and I'll go with Bryson.
If it wasn't going to be one of the top 10 guys, like the guys we all kind of think it's going to be one of them, if it was just someone else, who do you think that could be? Because we've seen that at Quail Hollow over there. Like Derek Ernst won at Quail Hollow once.
Yeah, the truest. If you look at the guys that have broken through there, it was Rory's first win, it was Ricky's first win, it was Homa's first win. And you talk about James Hahn, Ernst. I mean, there's a lot of outliers there. If I was going deep there, I would be again looking for a player like an Akshay, like a Davis Thompson, somebody that's really aggressive with the driver and is a very good putter. And hey, you know what? Justin Rose has been the runner-up for the last 2 in a row. So for us older guys, Pat, why not let Rosie make a run again? He's savvy enough to do it. He and Fooch for old times. Give him 3 in a row. Let him get up there and contend.
I mean, you've mentioned Akshay a few times. You didn't need to twist my arm on Akshay. And he's now a North Carolina guy too. He should be plenty familiar.
Yes. Yeah. That seed was planted on purpose, my friend.
He doesn't have the distance, though, is the one thing.
Yeah.
But listen, not everyone does everything well, but I take your point that it does feel like no matter, I guess the Hith kind of works that way too, that no matter where they are, it's like old school Hunter Mayhem that they're just going to fire at the pit. That's the one gear they have.
And those guys like slamming Sammy Burns, baby, and when, he's won 4 or 5 times because when it all works out, you win $4 million, then you wait 2 years and you do it again, but it works out for you. Right. And I mean, those are the types of guys I'd be going after. And hey, you know what? I was doing a little research. One of the guys that's going to be further down the board that always shows up there is Denny McCarthy, and he's been hot today. So I don't know where he finished. I guess I could look at the leaderboard.
He's in first.
Okay, so he finished 8th, but he was like 500 through 6 early, right? He's notoriously good there. And again, it proves the point that you better be a good putter. Reed, McCarthy, those guys, make sure they're in your betting card and your DFS lineups.
All right. The only final thing is you mentioned being there for the President's Cup. The setup for the President's Cup is going to look nothing like this, right?
They rerouted holes.
Yeah, but I mean, just in terms of the rough length, like every time you get a home, especially against the international team, when the home setup is for the Americans, I remember the Ryder Cup at Hazeltine, the rough was like this thick. They were like, no, just like have it set up so we can just go bombs away.
You always do this. You make me bring up tangent things. But so with the Ryder Cup, there is a home team setup. With the President's Cup, it's owned by the PGA Tour, so they don't set it up for the home team.
You don't think that they are? It'd be real bad if we were in America and the internationals win. That's not good for the President's Cup.
Be that as it may, the same governing body sets it up for both, and they set it up to be exciting with scoring and everything. So the President's Cup is not going to apply to this, and neither is 2017. I would look towards last year's, after the most recent renovation, last year's, and it being a little bit softer, and take those types of guys and run with it.
Jordan Spieth is up next, 50-1 at CoolBet. Pretty decent odds for Jordan Spieth, considering he is trending upwards, and I believe he's going to be one of Cuss picks, Kenny.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing about Spieth. I'm not going to bet him outright, but like a top 10, especially if you can get like plus money, I could see it. I could see him being like in or around the leaderboard on Sunday. I don't see him winning, so I'm not going to put the outright on him. But the thing about Jordan is the man makes a lot of birdies on hard-ass courses, like a shit ton, like more than most. Like he will birdie the fuck out of some difficult-ass courses. The only issue is he will get doubles and triples also, right, at these same courses. You really got to fuck up bad to go doubles and triples at Quail Hollow because, it's not – you hit it in that rough, you chop it out, you get it up and down, you make your bogey, right? I mean, that's the miss at Quail, right? You hit it into the rough. There's not too much water. There's not too much crazy danger. There's not too much knee-high fescue. It's just you miss it in the thick rough, you chop it out, take your medicine, make your bogey, right? And I think that type of course would fit well with Jordan because he's going to make the bogeys. He's going to make the bogeys, but he's also going to make some crazy birdies at these events where most golfers aren't going to make birdies on those holes. And that's something that you've seen at difficult courses from Jordan in the past. He's playing better, so I think he could be in the mix. I don't think he's going to win. He's has 2 wins in the last 8 years, right? 2 wins in the last 8 years is what Jordan Spieth has done. So I don't think he's going to win. But I think if you can get a good number, top 10, it might be something to look at.
A win gets him the Grand Slam, Joe, and it feels like because he had a good performance at the easiest course in the history of golf, now all of a sudden be like, man, watch out for Jordan Spieth.
And you mentioned the final leg of the Slam is kind of on the line and has been for a little while with Spieth, but it's more than just the CJ Cup, Pat. 4 straight top 20s. I don't think he's done that in years in consecutive events. And normally, I've said this for forever on my podcast, I think he's the most overvalued player on every odds board anytime he's in the field. For me, this number at 50-1 plus actually is a fair price on Jordan Spieth. Not only is his form kind of returning and the stats are checking some boxes, he's passing the eye test for me. He's finally putting well again, and he hasn't done that in forever. He had those woes for such a long time and couldn't figure out that blade. and was rushing those little short 6-footers. He's gained strokes putting in I believe 5 or 6 straight events. He's looking good, and Kenny mentioned it. Has the ability to scramble like few other players have when he gets himself in trouble. If he's missing fairways, he still finds a way to hit a lot of greens. He's had some colossal mistakes, and I think he mentioned this in his presser, that just haven't gone his way, that have cost him a couple shots in a few events. He needs something to sort of break for Spieth, but I think this is actually a fair price for him.
5-0 at the President's Cup in 2022, the best player on Team America. And it's not like Spieth was at his peak at that time either, Joe.
Yeah, what was he paired with JT and they just ran through some guys?
Yes, that is exactly what happened.
Yeah.
And then
JT
JT lost his singles match and Spieth won his, so he ended up with the 5 points. Either way, that's still pretty impressive. So he was 5-0, and if you look at the odds board this week, he's 5-0 at 50-1. So maybe it's a sign.
Reason for optimism for Spieth on multiple fronts this week.
How about this, Kenny? First round leader, Jordan Spieth.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. And I like the whole superstitious thing where it's, 50 and 50. I like that. I'm a very superstitious guy. And that's sort of why I'm wearing the Capitals jersey right now. They played so bad the last week. I've never worn this jersey before in my life. It's actually signed by Ovi, and I'm trying to get him out of the bad juju of that game one because that was the worst I've ever seen him play. So I like that. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to have some money on Jordan. I don't know what. I was thinking top 10, but first round leader sounds tempting. It's just not going to be the outright because I do expect him to show himself well this week. But, it's Jordan, so he could miss the cut by 12. We'll see.
How do you feel about Shane Lowry at 60-1, Kenny?
Yeah, it's not for me. I mean, another guy who hasn't won, since 2019, 2018, right? He hasn't won on tour in 7 years. Right, I don't see it. Well, okay, Zurich. My bad, Zurich. He did win that, but no, Shane.
Joe Lowry, I like him for Oakmont.
Yeah, Oakmont, okay, not here, not long enough. Lost strokes around the green all 6 times he's been here, and lost strokes putting in 5 out of 6. Clearly, there's something that is not hitting with Quail Hollow and Shane Lowry to a level that you would expect based on he's a pretty good chipper and putter. So something isn't vibing with Lowry here, and I just don't think he's long enough to overcome that.
How about Will Zalatoris? We always liked him at PGA Championships and in major championships, but I don't know if he's hurt. Obviously, he withdrew from the CJ Cup 2 weeks ago, playing at the Truist this weekend, Joe. He should just be farther down on the odds board. Like when you take a look at him right now, it feels like he should be 100-1 golfer.
Yeah, 40-1 is awful. No way. 100-1, maybe you can talk me into that. There's no way he has shown any indication that he deserves to be ranked with these other guys that he's circled around on the board.
How about Cam Smith, Kenny? Is he just out on golf?
Well, here's the thing. We've seen him actually gain strokes ball striking on live, right? The last couple of times, for the first time in a while, there's been a little bit of life. I actually saw him on the first page of the leaderboard in Miami. So it looks like there's been a little bit of an uptick in his game, but I think he's just enjoying the fact that he can spend 40 weeks at home in Australia or 30 weeks at home in Australia with his boys drinking whatever the fuck they drink down there and running from big spiders and snakes and stuff like that. I think he enjoys that part of his life now. I don't know. I wouldn't bet him here, but it does look like there's a little bit of a upward swing on what we've seen from him the last few times out on.
3 straight top 10s on live, Joe, despite missing the cut at the Masters.
Yep. Not only that, I've seen it. I'm circling this 110 number. And the other thing about Cam Smith, I think it goes a little bit unnoticed by people who he's picked up speed. I mentioned it about Fleetwood not trying. Cam Smith has gotten longer. He is on par this year on average with DJ, Brooks, Rahm. If you think those guys, if you're going to give me the case that those guys' length is an advantage at this course, well, so is Cam Smith now. You mentioned the last start, still one of the best putters in the world. The strokes gained putting numbers are outrageous. I think he can linger. And the thing about when Cam Smith lingers around and you have a bet on him, he's like a snake in the grass that when he bites, he can kill you. So if you're Scotty, if you're Rory, if you're these guys and Cam Smith is in a final group with you, I think that you're a little bit nervous playing with him because you know the magic that this guy possesses. I think there's a lot of reason to like Cam Smith at 110 to 1 on something people may not think is a great course fit, but if you look a little closer, I think this is a nice spot for him.
Here's the problem. That 110 is now a dead number. It's now as high as the lowest you're going to find it now is 65.
Well, that's a big difference.
Yeah. I think people saw the 110 and were like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. And now it's back down to probably where it should be. I see no real difference, honestly, Joe, between him and Spieth, except Spieth is just playing a lot better.
Yeah, Spieth's playing a lot better, and it's a lot more quantifiable because, like we mentioned, it's hard to really it's hard to, one, like you said, to trust the strokes gained data from Live, and two, it's hard to put into context what a 7th place or an 8th place means. So I think there's a lot more reason in terms of a stat profile to put a little bit more eggs in the basket of someone like Spieth.
Corey Connors, Kenny, Mr. PGA Championship. This is another look for first round leader. Dude loves the PGA Championship. And then he loves folding.
I'm a fan.
He loves folding late on a Saturday when he's in like 3rd place.
He's the prototypical non-bomber play for the week, right? He's everything you're looking for from a guy who doesn't hit it 300-yard carry for Quail Hollow. Like, he's accurate off the tee. He's exceptional with his longer irons. He plays tough courses extremely well, especially for how short he is. So, yeah, he's someone that I can get on board with. He's just the way that he plays his game and the way he plays he's like a better Harris English, right? From a guy with that type of skill set who just for some reason pops up at these, big time events that you don't think should suit him, and he goes out there and finishes top 5, top 10. That's what Corey's been doing basically throughout his career. So yeah, I'm a fan of his this week.
So, Joe, I like Corey Connors enough. I actually bet him at the Truist because I think that sets up a little bit better for him because I don't think that putting will play as big of a... I think around the green and putting is a bit mitigated at the Truist. I could be completely off on that. And obviously, you're going to have to make some putts. But his biggest skill at these harder courses is that he just hits so many greens in regulation that even though he sucks at chipping, he just doesn't chip as often as everyone else. The problem is when the 3 putts start coming in, it's not so great. I take a look at someone who's right next to him on the odds board. And it's funny because if this was, I don't know, 5 weeks ago, he would have been 25 to 1 to win this tournament. He's just been kind of out of sight, out of mind. Doesn't this seem like the perfect spot for Russell Henley to win a major?
I could hear an argument on that. I think he's just got too much to overcome. The same reasons I don't like Lowry. I just think that he's too short and the iron has slipped a little bit. He hasn't been good at PGAs. For me, just the course isn't conducive to his skill set. I'd be more inclined to go to Connors. Just because, like you mentioned, you stick an iron in his hand from 190 yards, and he's going to hit a lot of greens in regulation and be able to separate from those players in the field from that range, which is what Quail Hollow gets. You mentioned a couple President's Cup things. I forget with Connors, did he either went like 5-0 or 0-5 that year? It was either really good or really bad, and I can't remember which one.
He and Taylor Pendrith, 2 Canadians on the team, earned a total of 0 points at the President's Cup.
That's what it was. Yeah, my Kent State Golden Flashes didn't show up there, and the fellow Canadians they must have ran into the Spieth Thomas train a couple times.
Probably. It just strikes me as odd, Kenny, that everyone was like, oh, he could win the Masters. Look at his form coming in. It's not like he's out of form. He just didn't play well at the Masters, rebounded with a top 10 at the Heritage, and we just haven't seen him since.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of him. He hasn't really been the best throughout his career at these difficult type courses, like especially the ones that are this long. But his game has been so much better in the last couple of years that it's hard to look through. He did a lot of that bad work prior to that. It's not necessarily on my radar. His long iron game has been better, and which is something that he will definitely need because he is not the longest guy off the tee. But I just can't get on him right now. What's his number? 70, 80 to 1?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good number. But I just don't believe in him. I just don't believe in his long irons, especially with how short he is off the tee. He's going to have to rely on him, and I don't think he can do that.
I think you can zag a little bit here, like the Connors type, the Fleetwood type, the Morikawa type. Henley is obviously in that bucket as well. But this is someone who has a top 5 at a U.S. Open. He was top 10 at the U.S. Open last year. He has a top 5 at the Masters in his career. He just won Bay Hill. He plays long courses really well.
Yeah, he does. He has more recently, but overall in his career, yes, recently he has, and you've seen the uptick and the better long iron play in the last year, and maybe that's what we'll see. But throughout his career, he just hasn't been that great. And I don't know. I'm just not a big Henley guy, so it just could speak.
Neither am I. It just strikes me as a very good buy low opportunity on him now that he's actually fallen back down the board. Another guy is way down the board, Joe. He just withdrew from the Truist with a herniated disc in his back. A former Quail Hollow winner, a former PGA champion, Jason Day. Any interest?
No, I wouldn't be surprised if he withdraws. A herniated disc in the neck is not something that you typically come back from a few days later. I actually thought that I actually was interested in betting him at the Truist. I didn't make any bets before he withdrew. I kind of held on to a late card, and I'm glad I did. Was playing really well. It's kind of unfortunate timing for Jason Day, as this would have been a great week for him, and I think a lot of people would have circled around him. But with the injury, given what it is and his history and his age, I'm just going to kind of redline him.
Kenny Minwoo, the other Aussie?
Yeah, I mean, he finally got that win. He's got to feel a lot of the confidence. He can bomb it out there a long ways. There's going to be a point where he's going to contend at a major, and this seems like it could be one where he could, line up and pound it out there 320, 330, and hope and pray with where he gets a good lie in the rough, basically, and try and chop it out of there and get it close to these greens. I wouldn't bet him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he does show well this year. Finally got that win. He's got the confidence. He can hit it a mile out there. I wouldn't be shocked with a top 10 or a top 20 from Minwoo this week.
75-1 outright winner, Joe, for you?
Not Minwoo, but I think it's funny because it feels like that win was a long time ago for Minwoo. It was only 3 starts ago. I think that the putting is something I think that he's always been good at, and I think is somewhat predictive for someone that's a really great putter like him. The around the green stuff. Look, Houston, the Masters, Arnold Palmer, these places that have a lot of short grass that he's able to chip on and get his club face on the back of the ball, I think is a big separating factor for someone like Minwoo Lee, who's just frankly great at it. This is going to be 3.5, 4-inch long rough. It is every year at the PGA Championship. That's how they like it to play at Quail Hollow. I think that diminishes that part of his game a little bit. Of course, he has the carry distance, but he's lost over 5 strokes on approach in 2 of his last 5 starts. I mean, he's bleeding with the irons, and this isn't the place, I think, that you show up and can overcome that.
Let's talk Koreans, Kenny. Tom Kim, the king of Myrtle Beach.
Yeah, no. Sorry, Tom. You're my Korean brethren, but no. The game doesn't fit here, and he's playing like an asshole. So no.
150-1, you can find him, Joe.
Nope, not Kim. Not that Kim. I could maybe be talked in. I'm interested in Kenny's take and the other Kim,
Michael?
but not Tom. He's playing terribly.
Michael Kim?
I was thinking Siwoo.
How about the best Kim on tour, Michael Kim, friend of the show?
Friend of the program.
I mean, hey, you know what? Long irons are a specialty. The guy has been playing good golf, but I don't know if he can get that, first win since the John Deere at a major like this. Going past like 40-50-1 this week, it's going to be hard for me to click those numbers because even though, it's fun betting long shots, I just don't think it's going to happen.
Well, it's funny. Like there's a player down here on the board, which is really surprising. Like you can get him. I think 100-1 is probably the biggest number you can currently find him at, Joe. But he's ranked inside the top 10 in the world, and it's Mav McNeely. And everyone's like, nah, no thanks.
I'm with him. Nah, no thanks for me. I've never once bet Mav McNeely, and it won't be next week.
I think I like Michael Kim more than Mav McNeely, Kenny.
Yeah, I actually bet Mav when he got his win.
Oh
I
wow.
bet him at the PGA at 100-1 because I thought, okay, he's going to go on a run. I like his game. I like the way he plays. And he has gone on a run. I mean, like 4 top tens in his last, 8 events. Numbers still the same. Right? Numbers still the same. It was just something that I think I was drunk. It was possible I was drunk or stoned. I was like, oh, he won. Yeah, I was like, he's going to be a baller. And, PGA Championship is where guys come out and show their game up for the first time in a big stage. And I thought that for Maverick. So the bet's still there. I'm not going to cash it out. It's still there with 8 places at 100-1. So I guess I'm on him this week.
So here are 3 guys. You can tell me who you like the best of this group. Justin Rose, Wyndham Clark, or Tony Finau, Joe?
Justin Rose. Listen, he's kind of becoming a guy that that you can just cross out, and I have no interest in betting TPC, Craig Ranch, Summerlin, Birdie Fest courses. But he's kind of like a little bit of a big game hunter now, beyond the Masters and like recency bias and what he just did a month ago. T2 at the Open last year, 5 in a row. 5 in a row PGA Championships, T13 or better. His cumulative score of the last 5 years at the PGA is 25 under par, which I'd put that up against almost any player in the field. 2 third-place finishes at the Wells Fargo in his last 3 starts, too. For me, it's Rose. He's playing awesome, and he's just seen when the courses get really hard, he's shown the ability to kind of elevate his game, and he stays within his boundaries and comes up with a strategy and executes.
Kenny, would you have a different answer between Wyndham Clark, Tony Finau, and Justin Rose?
No, it's got to be Rose. I mean, the guy's back-to-back runner-ups at majors. He's become one of my favorite players to root for. So basically, when it comes to it, this is just me rooting for him. I want him to get another major. He's such a class guy, right? I mean, just somebody that you can root for is so easy. I want him to get another major. I will root for him. And, if it's 100-1, I mean, it's either going to be him or Patrick Reed for me at 100-1. It's going to be one. Fuck it. I might even bet both, because I play the each ways and I'll take the 8 places to try and win a little bit of money, that way. But I like Rosie a lot.
Is there a bigger discrepancy, Joe, between people who bet on golf and in our orbit, who are all kind of rooting for Patrick Reed to do well at this PGA Championship versus the general public who just wants him to go away?
Yeah, people still do have a certain hatred about Pat Reed. I was talking to some guys I golf with, and they still bring up the stealing from his teammates stuff. But we love Patrick Reed around here. Anyone who does it. Second runner-up to Justin Thomas back here in 2017. Quail history checks the box. Playing really well on LIV, 3rd in Korea, 3rd at the Masters. He was leading LIV Miami for a while. And here's the thing about Reed. He's playing more than anyone else on LIV. He's playing Asian Tour events. He's playing DP World Tour events. This dude is still out there grinding. And he doesn't check many of the skill set boxes that I'm looking for in a player. Carry distance, off the tee, striper with his irons. But he just is a find a way guy, like the ultimate like grit guy. When the conditions get tough, I can put a little bit of trust in him because he's shown historically that he can do it and he can rise up and he can fight with these guys. So I like Reed. It's maybe a bet on my card if he's triple digits.
If he gets to triple digits, he's currently 80 where I see him at right now, Kenny. That I think I'm with you. The unfortunate part is I'm going to have all these LIV guys on my card, and that's not necessarily what I set out to do. But they're presenting the best value at the moment.
They are, and like you said, he's playing well in those other tournaments. I think he's played 4 or 5 other non-LIV events this season. He's finished top 10 or top 20 in every single one. He should have won the one in Macau, right? I think, which got him into the Open Championship. I do have a bet earlier from the preseason show that Byron and I did, top 20 in all 4 majors for 50-1. I don't think it was the best number, but I took it. And he got that at Augusta. I think he could do it again this week. And then he needs a good performance this week to keep himself. I think he's 51st in the OWGR right now, top 50, get into the U.S. Open, and that ends the week after the PGA Championship. So he needs a good showing at the PGA Championship to bump it back up to the top 50 to make the U.S. Open. So he has a lot to play for. I'm in on him anywhere from even 80 to 1. I'd probably still bet him.
I think I like him top 10 better than an outright bet.
Yeah, and I'm going to have the 8 places. I play a placement market. I played it each way, and so I that's the way I'll do it with him.
Okay, rapid fire. Pick one of these guys that you like: Sungjae, Sahith, Bobby Mack, Keegan Bradley, or Brian Herman. Kenny,
Keegan, give me Keegan. His game has been pretty good here recently. I love him this week at the Truist. We'll see when this comes out if I sound like an idiot because I did bet him. I took the boost with him, so I want him to win this week. He can hit it a long ways. He's always been long and accurate. Ball striking has always been good. I like Keegan a lot.
I like Keegan a lot too, Joe.
I'm not going to bet him.
I don't know. I might end up betting him because the tee to green game is off the charts. It's just, can he ever make a putt?
Yeah. And most of the time it's no.
Correct.
But we'll see.
120 to 1. I'll take a chance. Keegan would be that guy that I would pick as well. Dude is sharp right now with his iron play, particularly with his wedges. One of the better guys in the field, scrambling pretty well. Hits enough fairways to gain a little bit of advantage back that he's losing and devalued in terms of length. 4 straight top 35 or better here at Quail. He has a second here in 2022. I like Keegan out of that bunch versus a lot of guys who are clearly struggling. Bobby Mack's interesting to me. I always want to bet Bobby. I would like to see, I'll have an eye on him at the Truist to see if he flashes anything, but a little bit too much inconsistency for me at the moment. And I'm seeing that more on the side of Keegan Bradley.
The next level of player, pick one of these guys, Joe. Straka, Berger, Burns, Ben Ann, or Taylor Pendrith?
100% easy go-to right off the bat for me. It's Danny Berger. Here's the thing. What odds do you have him at, Pat?
Daniel Berger, right? It's probably terrible because they overvalue Daniel Berger in the market like he's some sort of winner.
But it's not.
It's not. It's 100 to 1.
Okay, but here's the thing. You look this week at the Truist, and he's 35 to 1.
Or 20, all of a sudden now 20, he's in this, or 25 to 1.
Yeah, he's in this range with these guys he doesn't belong with. He went from this week at the Truist, he's with Lowry, Fleetwood, Hovland, Spieth. He's sandwiched in between those, and now he's with Rose and Im and Straka and Burns. He's clearly much better than those guys. 3rd place at the Heritage. He's top 30 in 8 in a row. He's got 6 top 20s. He's playing really good. He's got guts. He's got scrambling ability. I love playing Daniel Berger. I think that he's got a lot of he wants desperately to make this Ryder Cup team. Do I trust him fully to win? Maybe not, but of those guys in those bunch, he's clearly got the most valuable number based on what you're seeing this week to next week and that gap that doesn't make sense to me.
Straka's 110 to 1. I don't think he's going to win this. I bet him to win the Open Championship for later in the year, Kenny. He would be my guy from this tier. I think he is the best player of this bunch.
I think he is the best player of the group. Also, he can win. We know that he can win, and we know he likes to play against the big boys. If you look at a lot of his top finishes from this year when it comes to Straka, it's at big boy SIG events. He's had a lot of strong finishes. A little bit short. I liked him this week a lot because of how much you rely at the Truist, because of how much you rely on your wedge game. It looks like is what it looks like. But in this group, I got to go with one Korean, right? I got to stay on brand. Right, I got to go one Korean and it'll be Ben. With his length off the tee, he hasn't been playing the greatest, but he's had a really solid year and a half of golf. And recently, in the last few weeks, it hasn't been the greatest. But he won in Korea. He won that DP World Tour event in the fall. He's been playing good golf. He's had some really strong finishes in the last year. I think if the Korean's going to pop up this week, I think it's going to be Ben.
So low Korean, Ben An.
I would like that, yes.
All right, low Korean, Ben. We'll see what the odds are. And we do the best bet show on Tuesday. Maybe I'll talk Cam into that. Cam went 3-0 on the best bet show, Kenny, for the Masters, including Justin Rose, first round leader.
Yeah, that's pretty solid. And I love Cam, and I can't wait to meet him. going to be like, I'm looking forward to the trip and meeting Cam. That's going to be the highlight of the trip.
Yeah, if you want to come to the PME live show, it's during the week of the Canadian Open in Toronto, where the Canadian Open is. June 7th, tickets are on sale right now in the description of this video and podcast. You want to come hang. You ever want to have a cig with Kenny Kim? I don't even know if he smokes anymore, but he'll probably come out of retirement for you.
Yeah, the quitting thing is not going well. And I think I'm going to light up a cigarette right now. It has been fun.
You go for that. Two more guys, and then the final one, unless you guys want to chip in on someone else. Akshay and Aaron Rai, Joe. I like both of these guys from the accuracy perspective and the fact that they can go attack pins. I know they're going to make birdies this week. It's just what happens with the rest of their game.
Yeah, yeah, it's a tough call for me. I probably go Akshay there. I trust him a little bit more with the approach play. He's inconsistent, but I think if you're betting anybody 150 or 200 to 1 this week, they're going to show inconsistencies. Top 3 at the Players. I don't think this is the best course fit for either of them, so I'll be passing on both. But if I had to pick one, it would be Batia.
I'm just a slut for Akshay, Kenny. I don't know what I can say. He's my favorite player. I really want to bet him.
I'm a fan. I like his game. He's got like a little flair, right, out there. He's got a little flair to his game. I like watching him. He's got a new caddy going into the Truist, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure he's got a new caddy on the bag. Maybe that'll give him a little boost, a little jump start to get back. Because 2-3 months ago, he was looking really good, if I remember correctly. And I could be wrong because I'll forget stuff that happened 2 days ago. So, but what it reminded me of, he went through a really nice stage, and he looked strong. And he's sort of gone a little bit down here recently, but I like him better than Rai. I'm not going to bet either of them, but I like watching him play a lot.
Listen, new caddy might work for him, though. I think the last time he went with a new caddy on the bag, Joe, he was 19 on the Corn Ferry Tour, picked up a Tinder date, made her his caddy, and he won the event.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that still is either fiance or girlfriend to this point. So that worked out well for him. He has the ability to go low. Look, he finished in the top 3 at the Players. Like, the dude's done it at a big time event. That's not too far long ago. Just gained 6.5 approach on his last start. I'll take the upside with the young kid, Batia. I like his style too.
Lives relocated to North Carolina as well. So he should be plenty familiar with what's going on with the conditions.
I did not know.
I'm trying to squeeze something out of Akshay here. So, he gained almost 7 strokes on approach at the Heritage the last time we played. That's good.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
That is good.
Last player, a bet that I have made at 150 to 1 with 8 places. I told you I had too many live guys on my card, but I bet him every week on live anyway, and he almost wins every single week and then doesn't. It's Mean Dean. Dean, the Burmista lady. Joe, I love Dean Burmeister.
Yeah, in on Dean. I'll be there as well as soon as I get around to a board. If I see 150 to 1, I can remember, Pat, like last PGA Championship at Valhalla. Dean was like the popular flavor of the week. Everyone wanted 100 to 1 on Dean Burmeister, and he's not frankly playing all that much different than he did leading in. Now, he doesn't have the win. This course isn't all that much different than Valhalla, in my opinion, but he's still crushing off the tee. He's got a second in Hong Kong about a month ago. Didn't get into the Masters, so this is his first start in a major championship this year. 12th last year is what he finished. On an outright ticket, it's asking a lot. I don't mind sprinkling a little bit on it, but I'll take a little top 20 action on Mean Dean.
I had Dean to win Doral, which he had won the previous year, and he was winning at Doral, and then he finished T14. I think he made a quintuple bogey on the final hole.
Oh, Doral will bite you, man. You start ending up in the water and those firm greens. And there's some weird stuff that happened at the end of that tournament and a couple live tournaments this year where guys have been, even to Reed in that live event where he was like looked like he was runaway winner and then all of a sudden totally out of it. But flashes of form is enough for me with Dean. I know he's going to be able to carry those hazards and traps off the tee. Good course fit at these long major championships.
So, Kenny, are there any players that we have not gone over that you did want to mention that maybe as a top 20, as a long shot, as a sleeper DraftKings play that maybe you're looking at?
I mean, just looking at some of the people out here, maybe like Detry sort of piques a little bit of interest. It seems like he plays like these, long iron, difficult courses sort of out of the blue and pretty well. Maybe that's someone to take a peek at. But other than that, probably not. Is Sergio playing? I forget. Is Sergio in the field?
I don't. He's got to be in the field. He's been bad since I hyped him to win the Masters.
Yes, he's in the field.
Right. He
Yeah.
is in the field?
150 to 1, I'm seeing.
Okay, well, if he's been bad, then maybe not. But I know he went through a little stretch where he was playing really good golf. So I don't know, 150 to 1, maybe.
He was like the best guy on Live for a while, and then the Masters happened. He missed the cut, and he's been 50th and 42nd on Live.
Not great.
Yeah, not great, Bob. How about you, Joe? Is anyone at the back end?
Not from an outright perspective. There are a couple guys I have interest in that'll probably be cheap in DFS, maybe top 20 or look to isolate in a matchup. I mean, 200 to 1, Andrew Novak. Dude's finished top 3 in like 3 consecutive events, just went to a playoff in North Carolina, 2 weeks ago, and then followed that up with a win in the team event. I don't know how much that counts for, but has played well. He was there at Torrey right this year, and he's just playing in really good form. If you look at the stat profile, he's the best player by a pretty wide margin, and it's 200 to 1 and above.
Better than
The best part about Novak is he's probably doing the same thing we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Since he like hosts like NFL podcasts and shit like that. He's like a bro, right? He's I like him a lot just because he's like a normal guy. He's like us, you know?
I like it. I was going to say Bud Cauley kind of has the right game for here. I don't know what he's like, 8,000 to 1 or something. But he almost, I mean, he went through that stretch with 3 consecutive top 6 finishes. He finishes 32nd at the Heritage, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, Bud Cauley. Like, he's out of sight, out of mind. But he had been playing really good golf coming in.
Look at all that green there, man.
What's that? Yeah, it's a lot of green on that board.
Yeah, he's played well.
All right. Well, that will do it on the Pat Mayo Experience kickoff to the 2025 PGA Championship. Joe, you are the host of the Preferred Lines podcast. I recommend everyone go check that out on YouTube right now. Do you have any plans for next week?
Yeah, appreciate the shout out there, Pat. Yeah, Monday we're going to be live, and Monday, big change coming for Preferred Lines. Hasn't gone officially live yet. I'm going to tease it a little later this week, but I am bringing on a full-time co-host. So done with the rotating guests each and every week, the scheduling nightmare, the figuring out the cadence. We're still going to bring people on, and of course, love to have you guys who have jumped on a couple of times. But full-time co-host, we're going to get in the seat, hopefully get a little bit of the vibes that Kenny and Byron and you and Jeff have with like week-to-week bits that kind of last a little bit longer. I think it'll be a better experience for my audience. Really looking forward to it. Thanks as always for having me on, Pat. So we'll be out live Monday for the PGA.
Is it cussed?
It's not cussed. No, I don't have cuss contact information, although I'm sure he would be a super entertaining guest that
it would be a
anyone would
ratings
love to have.
bonanza.
Yeah. Crush it.
Kenny, when are you guys recording Fantasy Golf Degenerates this week? Sunday or Monday?
We're going to record them regular time.
Okay.
Monday, we're recording it normal, no difference. Me and Brian will be on, and we'll go over all the cool stuff with you, bring all the stuff that you want with betting and DFS and ProfitX and all that good stuff.
All right. Well, if you use code Mayo at Underdog right now, you'll get a deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Just remember, use code Mayo when you do that. I'll have my first newsletter blast post for the full preview of the PGA Championship out on Sunday evening. Myself, Keith Stewart, will have the full research show coming out this weekend. And then, boom, we're into prime time for the PGA Championship. Picks and bets, DraftKings show, Cut Sweat live chat. It's all coming this week. So please subscribe to Mayo Media Network right now. I took a pause to wait for you to do it. Thank you for doing that. Smash the like while you're here and sub to the audio podcast on Apple and Spotify under the Pat Mayo Experience, because I'm Pat Mayo, and I'll see you next time.
Pat Mayo Experience.